welcome. Now, Net is going to be here very soon, but I'm just going to lay down a few things first. I'd like to first put out there solidarity with our lumpen comrade in bags. Connor Gillis, what she's doing and what she's putting out there in regards to laying down defense for the organic anarchist movement that is going on in Arizona. We'd also like to I'd just like to point in there that last night, Comrade Na had a very beautiful discussion with Dead Man Animations. So, I'm not going to drop into anything on that. It's his discussion that he'd like to discuss into, but I'd like to mention that in this parlor. We then sort of come towards the discussion that we're here to have today, and this rolls into a bit of backstory regarding towards Mason, because we've had a few problems in regards there with him being a bit too ballsy with wanting to go into Arizona, which is any of you might be keeping up with the nasty situation we're in right now, is dealing with incursion from from fascists at the moment, that has had a lot of good comrades lose their lives, and for him to go out there when he has been advised to, not just by Comrade Net but by Comrade number 3, to very experienced, very well-hearted and strong fucking suited comrades, to turn around and tell him not to do that, and for him to go against that, it's utterly imbecilic. Like, there is not something you should be behaving like. And then when it comes into the further position, though, he got in criticizing Black Red Guard like this, that's not on. Like, no. Like, at the end of the day, all of the problems here and there, I mean, like, I got caught up in my own sort of wrong end of the stick when things went too far, mentalities about it, because I got sort of a bit confused with the drama in regards to Jason, and I also didn't like the arguments that ended up going on one end with talking to someone that I know is lumpen and saying that they don't know the lumpen, and sort of stuff like that. That was sort of here or there. But the point that needs to be asked is we can all have our criticisms here and fucking there. But one thing that comes into this is we don't know Missouri. We don't know what Black Red Guard's having to handle right now. But what we do know is that it ain't fucking anything compared to what we're doing. We're doing nothing compared to what he's going to be having to handle and deal with. And we should have our hands off that situation, hands off Black Red Guard. We need to take a step back, including you, Mason, and everyone else who wants to fucking throw their shade and throw their criticism, and take a motherfucking step back and think about what state we're talking about here. Missouri, Jim Crow. I don't know if anyone knows. Jim Crow is still some of this very much in operation in Missouri, and we've got to take a hell of a lot of respect for our black comrades that are having to go through that shit and having to fight through that shit. So when you've got someone like Black Red Guard, who is a fucking revolutionary, who's working with a movement of black communists and their movement towards what they need to do for their liberation in fight in Missouri, you can't turn around and say that you can then throw this shade and this criticism and you don't know what's going on there until you've able to sit down, have them discussions and learn from these people, Wagwan. You can't say shit. There's nothing that you can fucking throw down on this. And at the end of the day, if you're even going to give a criticism to Black Red Guard, realistically it needs to come from a position of respect first. We can't just throw a criticism out there. I've made my own mistakes where I've been stupid enough to do stuff like that, and you know what? I've been made to look a fool by the people that support him, because exactly I was a fool for doing so. And Mason is making himself look like an utter buffoon in this situation, because he doesn't know what he's criticizing. We don't know what we're criticizing. We don't know what we're on. So we need to take a step back. And maybe then, if we open our ears and we show a sign of gratitude, we can fucking learn from this situation, rather than fucking trying to come in and throw shade on something that we don't fully grasp the picture of. And brain, I'm in a bit of a moment. This really does as well. This applies to me too as well, regardless of me being lumpen, is that this is coming from white folk trying to talk about black folk. we got to be listening. We can't be talking about it. We can only talk about it once we've listened, and only with what we've heard, and we can only talk about it from a position that we've heard. We don't know because we ain't it. Like, they are the ones going through it. They're the ones dealing with it, and these people are the ones that are going to have a millions of fucking times the capacity to ever speak about it, no matter what we actually do listen to. And it's the only way we're going to learn is by sitting and listening and watching and engaging. That experience that they have, the only pathway to genuine true knowledge, will always dwarf us into a position of following. And this actually comes further into the American situation. The American Revolution, which is realistically going to have to be, well, I say going to have to be, it's going to be the anti-construct of America. Anti-imperialism really, really needs to, anti-imperialism, I'm having a mental moment. Anti-Americanism is going to be a main point of it, because America is the colonial construct, and that's not coming from me, that's coming from them. We've got to listen to them. But it's so the revolution in America and how it's going to function is going to be led by the red and black, I need to use the clothes. That's so my bad. Native Americans and the African American people. They are going to be the leaders of the American revolution against that colonial construct. It ain't going to be the white people. It ain't going to be the aristocracy. It ain't going to be any of those motherfuckers. No, it's going to be the the true proletariat of America, which happens to be black, and the colonized people of America, the fourth world. So the black and the Native Americans. So these people are your leaders. And if you don't look at them as your revolutionary leaders, you don't grovel to them, to listen to them and see what it is that, and to brain, and to see what it is that they have to teach you and show you and bring into further light, rather than trying to think that because you've got this very, very well intellectualized understanding of communism or socialism or revolution, that you can therefore dictate to these people that you think has some form of like a lesser ideal to it and all that. This isn't me throwing the criticism towards what we're talking about Mason. This is actually the broader ways of criticism that come towards a lot of the more revolutionary movements in these motions that actually typically are led by the African Americans, Native Americans, or the sort of fourth world and lumpen proletarianized peoples of these imperialist countries. And it comes into that really ultra leftist mode that comes from first world Marxism, or a lot of different ones, and not just Marxism, but a lot of the first world colonial culture in general, where it almost has this absolute dreaded fear of when fourth world or lumpenized people decide to get radical. And a lot of the things I end up seeing towards people like Black Red Guard, they have this instance to get really antsy with a lot of the antagonistic dialogue that might be used, or try and take a picture of this, that, and the other, and get almost spooked by it all. When realistically speaking, if you actually think about it, and there's a very justified reason why these people are speaking like this, why these people are angry and pissed off the way that they are, why they have to feel like they need to throw down a few slurs about white folk. And most of the time it's not really slurs. Most of the time they're just attacking the actual construct of whiteness. If you were to be able to listen to it and detach yourself from whiteness and sort of grovel to what it is that they have to say, listen with your ears loud and clear. Don't get caught in this pervasiveness of whether you're attached to whiteness on the basis of white nationalism or white guilt, because both of them are attaching to it. You're not detaching from it. You've got to breach away from it. You've got to show that you are compassionate to the past history of where we come from and what we've done, but you can't be groveling attached to it or brashly attached to it. You've got to detach from it and aid in the deconstruction of it, but not as this virulent sort of leader of this movement. And this comes down again into these ways in which Black and Native American people tend to be criticized by a lot of white communists and white leftists. They don't understand what they're criticizing before they criticize it. I mean, this stretches into a problem I'm seeing amongst Marxists where they're trying to say they're going to criticize anarchism. What is it that they tell you? They're going to criticize anarchism from the fucking books, so from written a fucking 100 odd years ago. They'll probably go and criticize the Spanish fucking Catalonian situation that occurred. They're probably going to criticize what happened in Ukraine. Are they going to go and engage with the anarchists in fucking places like Arizona and go down the streets with them and live with these people for a week or a month, live with these people for a year or two, actually fight on the streets, learn from the fucking experience what it is these people do? No, 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 because that is too much for them. They might get proven wrong by the organic anarchism that is happening out there that is doing better struggle than Marxism, because they are afraid. They are afraid they are wrong, and you can't handle people that are afraid they are wrong, because that is not how you find truth. Like, we all don't want to be wrong, and we all have a fear in that. It's not about that. But when you get consumed by your own fear of being wrong, you are lascivative like this, and it breeds things where people will attack onto people where they see them as a threat to their own positions. Hello, Jason. Welcome to the party. But you know, the everything always ends up compiling itself round to this sort of, you know, first world white agenda where it can't seem to let itself go and become a listener. It wants to always be a leader. And no, I mean, you know what, even it's not even just about, like, you know, fourth world. The problem in regards to that, it's not just about in a country where it's a massively black or red population. It's, you know, you can even comparatively look at this to the British population with the issue we have with our oppression of Celtic people. And, you know, I guarantee if we ended up in a position where you've got someone who's got, you know, an adversarial Celtic defensive position like James Connolly did, and, you know, people were attacking him left, right, and fucking center. And then when you've got someone who has an antagonistic African American position that they don't even have a full perspective of, they're throwing down on it before they even sit down and listen to that antagonistic African American. How dare he? But before they even listen to him and see why it is he's antagonistic, like, I don't know, living in Missouri, which is a Jim Crow fucking state, being a black revolutionary and fighting for his people and having to be criticized by white people that ain't in the grounds and on the floor like he is. And that's once again folds into the people criticizing the anarchists. What do they know if they're not going to go and spend the time with them on the streets and fucking listen to them? You don't know, dog. Like, I don't know enough, and I'm actually trying to speak out and try and help bring representation of this. I've got someone who actually is on the streets with them, who tries to fill me in and keep me up to date with it, but he can fill me in galore. I will still never know it as much as him or anyone else out on the street on there, because I'm not down there with them as much as I'd fucking love to be.
You know, I'm the only person I know my age that's fucking technologically not with it. Yo.
Yeah, I get you. My brain's a bit wonky.
It's just too. There's just too much fucking going on. Like, oh, echo. Why is there an echo? Am I echoing?
Oh, that might be me.
He says echo. Tell us when it's better, Jason.
Is it better now?
There's something that black Brad Guard, you know, like, bothers a lot of people. I get it, but, like, I get him because, like, I've been around enough people with that position that, you know, it's perfectly justified. You see reflections of it with Falcone. Anyone indigenous or black, I think, should be trolling white people because white people aren't listening. You know, like, it's this crazy thing. They aren't even listening to other people that get labeled white. They won't. They won't because, like, it's not about hating on them. It's about they don't understand even their own behavior. It's funny. But you made the claim they don't want to understand the behavior. You should point out that how that works in your mind, or like
Yes.
dialectically, like sort. I'm sorry, bad day.
No. So this comes into a lot of the colonial aspects. Like you have this mass amount of folk that you get this divergence. So you get a lot of people you get to conform to the anti-colonial movement in the first world that will dive into it. A lot of them white folk who will detach from whiteness, and then you get these other people, and you can explain it to them as much as you want, and it's almost like baffling to the mind that they don't get it. It almost seems that, and I mean, I guarantee you, 1,000,001 fourth world people have probably already said this before I have, especially amongst the African American community, because they're always right on the tune before any of us will ever jump to it. But that they don't want to. And do you know what? The reason why another reason to come to this that comes into sort of the third world is the Algiers. The Algiers had this position, and the Black Panthers used to show a video about the Battle of the Algiers and the revolution of which was going on there for the freedom against French colonialism, and their position was that the French didn't give a shit. They knew what they were doing. They did not care. There was no like as much as humanism likes to call itself humanism. There was no humanitarianism when it got that humanism, and they were completely explicit in it. Like Algeria was seen as a holiday home for them, and the film has a very cool point where. A good point. It points a really point. There's two bombs. I'm swearing at the camera. There's two bombs, and one of them goes off at a party. It blows up, and there's another one at another party at the other end of the street. Party just goes on. It don't even give a shit about the fact that a bomb's just gone off and killed loads of people. They just go back to it because it just seems that's just normal to them. That's just the fucking I mean, as we probably put it in the modern day with that fucking anti-Islamic stuff, the terrorist fuckers and doing whatever the fuck they do, or whatever racist slur that I won't say because it's disgusting, is that we would use against them. But that ends up being the pervasive view, and they go about doing their own thing and they get bombed for it, and it's almost like this justification against this really, really disgracefully disgusting whiteness of not giving an absolute flying fuck even about your own kin, because you're more bothered about the benefits you get occupying this land because it's your duty, right? Because Algeria is somewhere visible from France if you've got a fucking telescope. Like, they aimed to turn that into an absolutely French territory. That was the thing as well that people forget about Algeria. It was seen as a part of France. Like directly, not like a normal like colonial sort of controlling situation where you've got it as like this France
it's like
holding.
a living neo-pocket colony if you know its current state, by the way. Yeah. It's like a and I remember something that Thimble did not debunk. It was funny. And he's like, because Jason had pointed out this as a newer contradiction, because it's an old contradiction, but its phase is new. We've not seen this phase of that old contradiction. That's something I've noticed about Thimble, is like he goes in very primitive, like Eastern Bloc logic intelligence, which works culturally for them, but it doesn't impress universally necessarily all the time, like
yeah.
I don't know how he would, like, Marxism-Leninism is just Marxism-Leninism, but he doesn't even bother to see that at times Che and Castro disagree with each other, and they both disagree with Stalin at different times. And yes, Che loves Stalin, but that's the thing. I love Thimble, but I miss Thimble's deep-minded shit, like his old videos when he was like,
when he had some bite to him and he wasn't sticking the fence pole up his ass.
Yeah, and he didn't put up with fucking Gonzaloites and shit.
But I mean, because even though this is about Deadman and Black Red Guard, it almost I like to pull this into the anarchists.
It's about the fact that Dead Man Animations and Jason and are both correct about everybody needs to stop fucking with this guy.
No, exactly, but stop fucking this guy. But I'd like to pull this into the anarchists as well, because everyone needs to stop fucking with them. Like it drives me. It drives me mad the way that this is where back to the first point I said in the start, solidarity with kind of Gillis, lumping in bags as I called it, instead of like comrade in arms, lumping in bags. But hello Doxonovia, welcome to the crew. But I want to pull this into the anarchist situation because Comrade Gillis is holding the fucking line on that one, and everyone else needs to be too. I almost feel ashamed of myself that I've not been fucking volatile enough either. Like, is there such thing as volatile enough with it? Because the problem is that like we've got all these fucking dickheads either denying the fascist situation that's going on here, or agreeing with the fascist situation but downplaying the fucking role of the anarchists, and trying to talk shit about anarchism in general. As I got into earlier, the people I'm hearing recently saying that they want to criticize anarchism, they don't want to do it by, I don't know, going experiencing what the anarchists are doing and working with the anarchists for a month or so and actually gaining some experience around them and becoming a part of that family and getting that love and becoming fucking respected like that, learning from them learning from you, and you going away from it and feeling like a fresh man. Nah, or woman, sorry. To use just fucking, my dad's an old geezer, he's too still terminology, but what's it, uh, basically, essentially, growing up would be the right term for it, but not growing up, growing further, because you've got to have them engagements. If you tell me you're going to criticize anarchism, you're going to pull up some old shitty book from 1862, or you're going to go fucking criticize Catalonia or Ukraine or something like that, go away. Because the anarchists have already criticized that, and their criticisms are better. So please go and listen to what they have to say, and go and actually
Like,
engage
they
with
don't
them.
even bother with the anarchism, self-criticism that exists, like in the lump. And like it's funny because, like, okay, so one of the things that the anarchists are known for is they like to be around, they like to associate with anarcho-communists and anarcho-collectivists. However, they tend not to use that term. They tend to like be informed through anarcho, because anarcho-syndicalism is often seen as interchangeable to anarcho-communism. To an extent it is, but there are anarcho-communists that don't identify as anarcho-syndicalists and anarcho-syndicalists that don't identify as anarcho-communists. Now, by principle, any kind of anarchist is communist, technically, but like anarchists view communism more as, well, if we take the theory of the current anarchists in Arizona and LA that have that commune of anarchy like doctrine. I don't want to say doctrine, but to me anarchism is more of a doctrine.
Yeah, I get that.
Which I don't mean that in an insult, but to me that also why is like people think, oh well, Demarchism came from anarchism. Actually, no. The first Demarchist, Fred, he didn't fucking know. Fred didn't even investigate anarchism. It was later Herb that did, and the others, and they would correct stuff. So that's why I've always been hesitant on trying to I've been talking to people who have the rights over the other Demarchist literature, because that's one of the problems with the Bundist PDFs going to Dr. Weisfeld is they quote this literature, and because the martyrs would quote extensively, because when they learned it, I'm like, yes, because that was a requirement so that they didn't get, so that the ones that were influenced by ML and then later MLM right before they died, basically, that this didn't corrupt it away from the Demarchist position, because Segundism has been informed through anarchism and Trotskyism, but what was missing is the big tanky everybody, and when Bundes took up that, we did something that even the anarchists couldn't do. We ended up shifting a lot of Maoists, and that's why, and then when we started associating with Jason, it only brought pain on both us and Jason. It was not right, But the problem was, Dead Man's criticisms. Although I told him myself that a lot of this is misinformed. I made it sure that it was the funny part was no one had ever seen an actual criticism of Jason, regardless of what you agree with. It wasn't actual criticism, and it was painful to watch. I'd been there watching it with Jason a couple times so that he could sit through it, but the third one kind of fucked me and him up both, because I was like, you'd have the dog whistle thing as every time, and Jason's like, oh, I fucked this up.
I mean, oh, I lost my own point then.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. I had a brain fart. I had something to say. What was the thing before? I know what it is. I know what it is. Okay, so this is something your experience probably could help with a bit there. So I'd actually reckon that maybe, because you're saying there's a doctrine to it, and the anarchists are probably going to hate me, and I love you too, so please don't hurt me too much when you beat me for saying this, but wouldn't you say that maybe the reason why ML doesn't align up with them so much, but MLM Third Worldist, and Denmarkist managed to align with the anarchists so well, is because of them having their anarchic doctrine to the way in which they deal with fighting capitalism?
Yeah, I think my biggest issue remains with Maoism, is to say, well, why don't you just say? Because we actually agree with the third world's position on Maoists, because we like to deal with the Maoists, and in action, we get along better with them. But when it comes to at the end of the day, what the fuck is going to happen? There's a reason why we align with the third world. So I wish you would like say that, because I'm tired of like explaining a theory that I'm maybe related to, but I'm not really exactly part of. And there's not enough third worlds that have, like, you have Maxwell Glover and Dark Snowy switch to third worlds, not lightly, like he had said, like a lot of people thought. There's yourself.
I mean, it comes into a lot of different angles, but I mean, the main one drives into they never really, the only really thing they've got to default on is what Marxism, Leninism had set up as a way of transition, because they've not really got anything about themselves. They have the warrior side of things and the elements of revolutionary struggle and building mass struggle side of things. Perfectly brilliant, and I like the idea of the commune system. That's a wicked idea, and other things like that. But the implementation of these things has not been very well thought out yet. Like Maoism is sort of very hot-headed with the philosophy, but not very grounded in its material when it comes to a lot of issues. So I almost feel that I find that the third worldism element is what brings it forward into its sort of folding point, where it takes itself a step back and realigns itself with its pantherism, because you've got the main issue of Maoism a lot of the time follows the Guzman side of things, the Shine Path side of things. It almost seems like they've burnt out a lot of the pantherism and gone for this
That's why Gonzaloism is a
idealism.
heresy. Like Jason's right, it's a heresy.
It is, because it burnt away what it actually formalized itself out of, because it used pantherism to form itself. It used pantherism in its tactics, but it decided to burn it like Gonzaloism decided to burn it out, like decided to burn pantherism out of the movement, and it was just ignorant of where Gonzalo's ideas were cemented in, where Maoists in India's ideas were cemented in, where the Maoists that were a part of the Black Panther Party's ideas were cemented in, where the Maoists that were that are still in the Indian and Filipino revolutions right now have cemented their ideas in. Across the globe, you can look for Africa and everything, you can find all these Maoists everywhere that were conglomerating these ideas from what people have been learning from the Panthers, Lin Biao, can never remember the other geezer's name. Fucking but
Chimboda,
Chimboda.
Newton, Franz Fanon, like
I
that.
know Franz Fanon. Franz Fanon's a funny fella. He made a really good book on fucking mental health and other things like that. But I have to check the door. Is that a late message or is that now? I see now. Okay. Well, now for me to try and absolutely nail this while he checks the door. Please stand by. But no, what's it? I just feel that the situation, regarding the way people critique Black Red Guard and the way people need to get their hands off it, it comes exactly the same to the anarchists. It's hands off them, hands off Black Red Guard, and hands off the anarchists in places like Arizona and elsewhere across places like the US that are fighting for people's lives and are losing lives at the same time. Like, when you disrespect these people, it's not about that you're disrespecting anarchism. It is disrespecting fucking people's lives that have been fucking taken by fascists that these anarchists are defending. I don't care if you think that's me fucking equating shit. No, that is the fucking case. You are disrespecting the dead people who entrusted these people to protect them and have been protecting them, but are struggling because they're not just fighting fascists. This is deeper than you fucking think. The fascists have a lot more defending them than you might think. It's not just some fucking hicks and bangers with fucking rifles. Like, this isn't some fucking shitting around fest. Like, we're not just fucking around here, like, playing about with you. No, Arizona is another fucking shitfest in a similar state to the situation with Missouri that none of you understand. Arizona makes Texas look like a fucking pussy. When you think about a state that makes Texas look like a pussy, and then you think about the anarchists that are going to be fighting that state that makes Texas look like a pussy, maybe that'll make people think a little more like, maybe something horrible's going in here.
My
It's,
setup is not finished.
you up? I do not consider anyone as serious communists that they don't read Wretches of the Earth. That book is a ritual, important piece of communist history. I can agree with that, but I wouldn't ever turn around and say someone's a serious communist for not reading anything though. I don't agree to those sort of positions. I don't like the literature. I don't like the literature gatekeeping that communism has to it. It almost makes it inaccessible to most people. It comes across in the sort of lines that we were getting along with. The rejection of pantherism from Guzman is from what not Guzman but Gonzaloism, but the so you know it gets into that sort of like heresy argument again, where you have these different issues that have caused so many people to just utterly hate Marxism and hate communism and all those other things like that, and it piles up like bricks. And the bigger this wall gets, the harder it is to smash down. And I think the literature block is one of the biggest walls on there that none of us really challenge. But no, I agree. Wretches of the Earth is an important thing for people to read, but it sort of it comes into one of them conglomerated issues where it's important for people to read, but a lot of communists aren't going to have access to these different bits and pieces because they're having to build themselves off their own basis. Especially when we look to the third world and the strangulations we've put on literature in the third world very purposefully, because of the way in which imperialism abuses brain drain from the way in which it can destroy societies out there in the third world. You know, a lot of theory that comes about and out there comes in an almost continually rupture-like fashion. I think like the Shining Path isn't the only exemption in that mannerism. A lot of people that end up coming to Maoism may have come across them from Lenin or Mao or Marx or something at that point, but they come up to Marxism to a T without having to see it because they're more than fucking intelligent enough that when they have dialectics as their tool and they have the experience that drowns any book knowledge that we could fucking have out, that they can figure this shit out of their own backs. And I mean, like, even with the peoples that are white, you can see a situation like this. Like, and not technically white, so the Irish people in Britain, they've had an experience that they, like, as they would put it, a legacy that's been left that they will never forget. So when stuff like that has been laying around and in scar, these people don't really need much of literature to push them on. They just need inspiration.
It's weird because I'm getting tired of feeling like I have to ask people that join in with this thing, like, you know, this project that we're all doing. You know, they complain about Democratic centralism when we're talking about this. I particularly would prefer nobody use Democratic centralism. I just recognize the validity of its usage. So amongst you guys, I use it. But like, I do that so that other Bundists don't have to fuck. Like I said, feel tainted. I already feel tainted by using all of your guys' methods because a lot of them I challenge because I don't see them working. You know, and we've made things work, and the fact that we have to go to the gatekeeping communist philosophy just to say that we're proper socialists is very, I don't know. Like, people wonder, why do you scrap the word communism when you don't have to? It's like, because it's a statement. We say, you know, it's a statement. It's not that your definition of communism is wrong. It's that it's used as a Western invention to dick, and it's even weirder when we see people of color use it on us, on Jewish people. And like, we may have an informed history, like dialectics is peel-pulled. Like, there's a lot of stuff where there's a lot of, like, our problem is you have this divide between those that are assimilated, and they really just are trying to use Jewish as a badge to like act like they can play, and then there's people invested in what that is. And you know, people like, they don't understand what it is. Like, they like, it is a religion, but it's a culture as well, and it's particularly those both things, that it's not an ethnicity. Like, that's and so when you get into the history of it and you read the national question, it's kind of crap, except for the parts where there's contributions explaining a prison state of nations and stuff. Stalin did make actual theoretical contributions. It wasn't always wartime.
Yeah, it's actually the bits he took from Lenin that are the bad parts. That's the funny bit.
Yeah, I know, and I and this is something that's hard for people to swallow. Like Stalin made blunders, but the things that Stalin really achieved it's because he was willing to innovate away from Lenin. But oh, what do we got here?
Yeah, no, I mean that's one of the really annoying parts of it. And yeah, no, I agree. I did put in the comments on that, but I agree with you that it is a big, it is a bit of an issue where Americans do need to read on this, and this comes more into a problem of because a lot of white Americans don't understand fully or even halfly the racist history of their country because of how they've been taught against it. We end up being taught a little more about your racism than you do, but they don't teach us about what we did before you did it. They just teach us about the American West, and then you guys get taught about the Indian genocide in the East, what we did, a little bit of American-British hatred, but they avoid talking about their own issues. It's completely discarded away, and then when they want to talk about it, it's when some dickhead wants to reform the education system to tell you it was either a good thing or it didn't fucking happen. That is a country that is very precariously fascist in a very ridiculous way.
So one of the reasons why, we're hoping Jason sees this is we've been trying to avoid this because we tell everybody who we love, but who's been getting on everyone's nerves all the time lately. And if you could do that, because it's just bad.
I did get into Mason at the start, but I can get into it again. It's sort of Mason.
Oh, the other one.
Oh wait. My brain, sorry. I've forgotten.
He has muscles. He looks like he's
Oh shit, yeah, so I got into this without mentioning, so Trav is we're having a lot of issues, so this comes back into the anarchism thing again. Firstly, are you going to criticize anarchism? Well, where are you criticizing anarchism from? This needs to come from a criticism of the anarchists on the ground, and you're not going to do that without realistically going and experiencing what it is they do, or at least engaging in full discussion with them. Like, full discussion is the least, at the bottom of the barrel that you should do to be able to criticize anarchism, and it should be a very long discussion of you listening for the most part. But on top of that, realistically, you should be diving in the deep, getting involved with these people, and actually being able to, learn what it is that they're experiencing and going through and garner a picture, and then you can go about and criticizing them, because this sort of like chauvinistic attitude towards anarchism at this time is just really unnecessary. It's almost like I know you're not intentionally doing it to do this, but it almost just causes this like burn bridge effect while we're dealing with a fascist incursion. Like, it's not the best timing to want to have a problem with the anarchists, but it gets.
I think I'm going to be very real finally, because I've hesitated saying this, trying to respect this arena, but I'm losing respect for this arena. Like, I actually do real work. I think a lot of people should shut up and listen to me at this point. I'm not trying to say that in that way, but who is exempt? Yeah, and this is going to piss me off. Black Red Guard, he owes me nothing. I owe him nothing. We've never met. What I know from him is from professionals to know that, and that's why I do endorse when I mean, you've had dead man say it rightfully to even substitutes that we've known that we don't need to get into. He's corrected them correctly to not talk about shit that they shouldn't be talking about, and Jason's done the same thing, and it's gone on depth. So, well, yeah, but Jason, you don't like Red Guard. It doesn't matter to Jason. It's a matter of the principle of rare cadres in the first world are like the best thing, even more than proletarians in the first world. Like, not saying that Black Guard isn't proletarian. I'm saying that if people misunderstand, they think, oh, well, where's this big arsenal and how's all that shit works? It's like, no, you don't understand how the power works, and I'm not going to tell you how it fucking works over there. But that's one thing that we find amusing is we have more people than he does, but he has better shit than we do. And I'm telling people, they really, really shouldn't play with fire like this. They're like, what they are doing is wrong, and it's affecting
burning bridges with a good revolutionary.
The balkanization in the United States that actually exists. That you're afraid that's going to come, but it's already fucking here. It's been here. There's a Midwest and a fucking Southwest, and the sacrifice zones that where Mason lives. Like, the sacrifice zones, yes, they have the proletarian spirit, but that's not always the best thing, because maybe you should consider the fucking myth of the white proletariat. Not to saying that he's not proletarian, but in the sense that, as we know, what made in the United States different was that black people were used to lift up the proletariat. That's the thing. That's the thing. That's why a lot of third worldists do, by the
I
way,
mean, this is so.
like Settlers. But I think my annoyance with this, I do find it cliche. I'm not hating on it. I don't like it because it's cliche. But when you find out that there's these two other books that Jason Kai wrote, I was like, why is everybody arguing over one book when there's apparently these other things that go with it? And I learned that from Dead Man.
Because they're not reading these books. That's the thing. They've not even read the book they're criticizing. They've read the because you know they got they read the thing that's on the front of it and then they make the criticism of it. So it's like, I mean, not especially not in America. Like America, race and class are so fucking intertwined. It's impossible to fucking pull them things apart. But across the book, because race is a very in sort of it's like and sexual oppression in general has a lot of tie within class oppression, and so does racial oppression. So it's this almost like fallacious relationship. It's a threesome between them all as they fuck each other. But the thing that I wanted to get into and what you just said has just fell out of my ass. I mean,
I'm taking authorization from Jason. I'll just say that.
Okay, yes, Settlers. That's it. I don't want. I wanted to get into it. So I mean, I've not read Settlers. I can't say I can make a full criticism of the book, but I have had
I'm going to
African
keep
American
conversations
comrades.
about mopping publicly slow for my own reasons right now.
Yeah, we'll keep that off the table for now. But you know, Settlers. I've not read the book, but I have had African American comrades that have very beautifully broken down parts of it and showed me different bits and pieces of it. And you know what? I actually reckon if I read the book, I probably will like it. I'll probably like it if I read the other two with it, because regardless of the bombasticness of him saying there's no white working class, as far as it's come out to me, he's not saying there aren't people who are white that have relationships that you could say is a proletarian relationship if you section off. What he's saying is there isn't an actual proper white proletariat because they have been bourgeoisificated. You can look at this like, and I can't say that this is a full proper criticism. This is just from what I've got from what's been explained to me and what I've interpreted myself, which could be very wrong because it's not got a full picture of it, and I fully accept that. If any fucking African American comrade wants to shoot me in the ground on that, feel free to, because I'd rather be right on it. But the way it seems to me is that it's coming off what Engels had already pointed out a long time before, and seems to be foundating that on a million times better, whereas getting into the bourgeoisification of the proletariat that happened in the First World. And if you look to a country like America, most of the white proletariat are bourgeoisificated. If you're going to look at a white person that's in the lower strata, they're lumpenized. And what acceptance of whiteness do most of them people get? Now, I'm not going to completely go and make a claim like that, because I know a lot of lumpen people they're still engulfed in whiteness and engaged in a hell of a lot of horrible racism. But lumpen people, out of any of the people in America, I'd expect would end up being the more respectful towards the African American community, because they are completely thrown down and battered on the ground. They have got to grovel and respect what's going on around them, and they get treated in the same criminal sort of like mannerism, but nowhere near as bad. So they can see the fact that even though they're getting treated like criminal scum, like you're just a native drug addict, this, that, and the other, that they get treated 10,000 times better than their African American comrades in the same position and like people around them. So they end up having to have that sense of humility. No other white person in America is having that sense of humility where they're seeing themselves as better off whilst being just as worse, proper hardcore. All the other people that see that have the ability to engulf themselves in a I'm just working harder, or they're just like that, because of the eugenic mindset around these people in America.
So, we have this issue like where we're talking about boundaries and stuff, and like people trying to get involved and stuff, people holding people back. But we also need to kind of defend Trav, because I said if ever I had to apologize for Trav, or I say we're criticizing, we should sort of defend, because like without giving it too much away, can you help me explain like what's actually going on with him? By the way, I let him talk when I'm like overstressed, because this guy can. People think I can talk. This guy could turn speeches into long movies, I believe.
I mean, it comes into, and like I said, it comes into the part of it where, it's not Trav's fault going through a lot of stress and a lot of stuff like that. But the problem it has is a lot of the sort of anti-lumpen tendencies that can pop up and other issues like that that come in conflict with the situation. Like, the most important thing of strategy that comes to the lumpen, comes from them perspectives. And Trav has his own experiences. Trav is, he's not just some geezer who's coming from some, outside perspective. He has his own experiences and has a right to fucking come from them experiences. And I understand where he's coming from, you know, but it's something to learn and get past because, and it's going to be ridiculously hard. I'm not saying that it's some easy sort of trick of the pony sort of shit, but the lumpen are, and I know he knows that because he said it to me before, and I'm not trying to rub this in his face, but the lumpen are sort of the revolutionary class, and they will bring things forward, but we're not going to get there if we don't come to the comeuppance of that and come to the most experienced, because I'm not the most experienced. I'm far from the most experienced in the lumpen, but the most experienced in the lumpen.
Black nationalism is necessary to bring down the first world. It absolutely has
Exactly.
to be black nationalism. And if that's where if the lumpen proletariat want dual power in the first world, it has to be with black nationalists. But we should also continue. What's happening to us is we're getting largely like in Arizona, we're largely connecting to the Navajo Nation, connecting to fourth world people. So like that's what the whole resistance in the third world thing is. If you could explain that, how the first world proletariat be black is actually black, and then connects to the lumpen proletariat, which connects us to both connect to the fourth world. Like the fourth world first world lumpen proletarian strike on the first world, like it's an actual it's its own thing. Yeah.
The fourth world is in certain degrees one of the most revolutionary sort of forces that you can gain in the world, depending on where it is. The fourth world in the third world is extremely revolutionary. Look at things I guess you could argue the Mexica movement, depending on how you look at Mexico, whether it's second or third world. The Mexica movement would be seen as a very, very, very radical fourth world movement, and another sort of giants like that. But within the first world, like, let's look at an example like Britain. I actually use Britain. You think America, but you know what? I'm going to pull this away because America is, in my opinion, is easy. And I'm not trying to say it's easy because I'm trying to downplay their struggles. I'm saying it's easy because it's absolutely bombastic to me that the white people of America can't get it. So I'll use colours that they can understand. We'll go to Britain and we won't look at the actual. I know this seems dishonest, but I'm just going to say, don't look at the black issues of Britain. We'll just look at the actual British issues of being British and Britain and all that bollocks. So the Celtic people of Britain.
By the way, shout out to Lebanon and Syria and the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Pan-Arab, Pan-Persian, Pan-Shia, solidarity movement.
Yeah, no, hell yeah, always got fucking solidarity for my Islamic brothers and sisters and Arabic brothers and sisters. That's another great direction of discussion to go to at some point when it comes to talking to revolution. But when it comes to the situation in a fourth world and their importance to our struggle, we can look at this at Britain for an example. And so Britain, we've got that Celtic oppression over them, and the Celtic people are fourth world people. When you look at the oppressed Welsh and the oppressed Irish and the oppressed Scots, although we do need to accept that there is a certain element of Scottish society that was anglicised and was a part of the oppression of the Irish and the Welsh, but there is a massive portion of the Scots that were also heavily oppressed already. They're mostly Gaelic parts of Scotland, but yeah, this comes into some of the neocolonial. So but it also comes to old colonialism because this is one of the old colonized spaces. So it's sort of, within a movement within Britain, the lumpen proletariat is certainly going to be at the front of things, but it's not going to be at the front of things entirely. No, you'll also have the African Anglos and the Pakistanis, Indians, Eastern European people. They're going to be all involved within the front of the movement, and they incorporate a lot of the proletariat and lumpen proletariat a lot more than a lot of English people do. So, surprise, surprise, the proletariat is not incorporated mostly by those that are the main engulfment of whiteness. It's those that are seen as lesser than or black, and the situation regardless is you're going to have the fourth world people within the lead of the struggle, because there's going to need to be this decolonization project within the situation, and that's even more massive in a country like America that is an entirely colonial foundation. Like there are parts of Britain where you can be like, yeah, well, that's native, that's native, that's native. You've got the natives of America, but the people who are the big like land state colonial population are so massive compared to them that trying to deal with them and the way that they keep throwing their weight around and putting handcuffs on everyone like they did to the blacks and the reds during the civil rights movement, where they did the Civil Rights Act and put a big massive set of handcuffs over the fucking Black Liberation Army and all the other fucking folks like that. Trap them into a block and shut down the movement, give tokenized benefits that there were a lot of them were still great benefits, and they gave them fucking great sets of freedom, but it wasn't, the people weren't fighting for just some act that will give them some of the freedoms and then ban them from protesting, make things illegal, hunt down the fucking most radical members of the African American movement and destroy the entire thing.
Yeah, and I think that this is the thing, is like I don't like talking about these fuckers because they've already thrown shots at the multipolar movement, especially that and like I would warn such Gonzaloite LARPing low tech terrorist fucks, because that's what you fucking are. You're LARPing low tech terrorist fucks. You're not even as sexy as the Weather Underground, you sick fucking. I have to have a cigarette, like, because this is one of the things that's pissing me off, because they screw with him, they screw with us, they screw with Jason. I mean, it's funny because, like, for all those of you, like, Jason, don't share that. Don't rebuke Cal. Like I don't know what that thing is about anymore. But like, this is the thing people need to know. Don't give Jason fucking stuff that Black Red Guard says against him. Jason doesn't care. That Black Red Guard doesn't like to be defended by anybody. Jason did it on a sense of principle. Jason doesn't care. It's a matter of principle of him. Like, why don't people realize the significance of that? Missouri is Jim Crow. It's a fucking Jim Crow state. Oh, yes. Now, because you both love me, and I got sick. You both be on your best behavior, because old man Net is like in panic attack mode. And oh, she missed it. Like, maybe you should re-say what you said. That it's amazing. Like, you two are always building each other up when but you say it to me and not enough to each other when you're in. It's frustrating because you both are always like praising each other, and then like saying mean things about each other. I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, what is this? Like,
I don't say mean things. I say nice things in criticism. No, but what's it last? One of the things I mentioned before is that one thing in solidarity, you being one of our lumpen, instead of comrades in arms, it's lumpen in bags, because we're always carrying our shit everywhere because we've got nowhere else to go. But the it's on a purpose of you holding the line in the defense of the organic anarchism that's occurring across the fucking in Arizona and other places right now. The problems that are coming in with those motherfuckers that are throwing shitty fucking shade on shit that they don't understand, and this throws down into also the Black Red Guard situation that we're discussing here. I do give tough love. I love you too, boy.
All right, now, unless Jason says yes, I won't make him come on, because too many people at once. Like, the same shit happens to me.
Jason will be all right to come on, because it won't get too close with Jason.
All right, so this link is reserved only for Connor Gillis and Jason, and Net's gonna have another cigarette. No, Jason doesn't want to be on here. Like, I told you, I know him. I know where he's at right now. He's been sick, bro. Like.
Yeah, see, Connor gets it. I do it because I care.
People, let him have time, bro.
Connor gets it.
All right.
Oh, my bloody shoulder.
And I just have to reignite you guys, just because like I was thinking about it. It's like, no, he doesn't. Like, I had to think about it. He told me, like, he's trying to mentally prepare for other things. Like, he's been sick. Like I said, too many people at once can be bad for Jason, because like it's bad for me. Like I was once on a street.
I'm just bad for people's health, in all fairness. I'm a high rate geezer, so. Ow, my bloody shoulder. Don't get metal plates on shoulder if you don't have to.
Yeah, man, called you out, Jason.
Love, Jason Unruhe. Everyone loves Jason Unruhe. They're just
Yep.
lying to themselves.
And if everybody wants to know, like that, this cat's cool right here. All right.
Yo,
Hello,
Oh,
puppet.
I just got done doing some prayers after a long stream with Dark Zenobia, which was really cool. We talked about a number of amazing topics, really had some cool discussions there. I suggest y'all check it out. Jason is my Buddha. Yeah, I love Jason. He's a great guy. He really
me
is.
too. Probably the most misunderstood,
Well, think about it. Anyone who is that prominent online like that, there's going to be like a parasocial perception of them, and then like who actually the person is, because you can only gather so much about what Jason's all about just from the videos, right? I mean, you actually got to, get a little bit more into talking to him, or talk to people who know him and learn about him. He's
and
not so.
it also comes into the fact that these people have an utter objection to a lot of the things he says, because Jason does just say a lot of things as it is. So some people just come into conflict, but the point you're coming to, I think, mainly comes into a lot of people that just think Jason's just some mad transphobe ultra who just goes on about the class divide all the time.
so Jason, check this out.
Jason Steiner is my Jesus. Jason is my Buddha. Wait, does that mean that we've got to nail Jason Steiner, Mason Steiner, to a cross?
Yeah, I didn't know y'all knew Bad Our Boy. I love Bad Our Boy.
Oh yeah,
Lebanese-
he's a genuine pan Arab liberation.
See, you defending Badar Boy and Trav server was the first time I actually engaged with you.
Yeah,
I believe he's 18 years old in high school. He's got a future, but that's the thing.
but he's
Question with the aggression. Like one day I'm gonna have him on here to talk about what he wants to talk, but I'm gonna let you two talk right now. But like I'm prepping with that so that I don't like extra information going on or what's going on.
No. What's it? I remember when I was speaking with Badar Boy, is that I was actually very proud that he's gonna come on and talk about these things. Because regardless of his own sort of class positions and the fact he's growing up, the fact he's going into uni, he's still got a hell of a lot of things to say about the Middle East and other bits and pieces like that. He's a smart lad, and he doubts himself a bit too much on that.
Well,
but then again, he has to listen to me complain about the aristocracy all the time. Sorry.
Yeah, I've talked to him quite a bit in the past, not recently, because he got banned from all the servers he was on. But I've always been a big defender of Bad Our Boy, despite his unpopular positions among the left. I'm still like when he talks shit about LGBT, or he says something bad about Jews, I'm like, shut up. You you don't hate Jews. You just hate Zionists and liberals. Just calm down.
Did you tell them that? It's the Protestant Jews. You're getting them confused for the actual Jews. It's not the same.
Right. And also, he's our Lebanese Shia king. Islamic socialism for the win. Love it.
Oh, I ended up having me growing up in a monarchist country and you guys using the word king in a different thing. I had that argument with Net today.
I should be a strong Republican, My Irish ancestry, republicanism should be in my blood,
Well, I mean, what's it? I'm a quarter Scouser, so I have a wee bit Irish in me too.
Gotta love Scousers, huh? There is a strong relationship between Liverpool and Ireland, isn't there?
Yes, pretty much everyone who lives in Liverpool who's a native to Liverpool is part Irish.
Wow, I didn't know.
Well, the Mersey. So, do you know how we used to have a mass amount of Cumbric culture? Well, it's north of the Mersey where Cumbria starts.
Oh, okay, yeah. The Merseyside Derby. That's why I know where that is, because of football. That's why I know the geography of the UK is because of football.
Go up a Liverpool fan, so.
The Reds, huh? You'll never walk alone.
But before they changed their names their nicknames to the Lambs, my town that I live in now had their nickname for their football team as the Red Army. They changed it For
Ah, I would have tried out. I would have gone on trial for that club. I would have tried my hardest to join.
I need to go like to a football game and like with some of the older biddies and start singing "Red Army is the strongest" in English and see if they just think it means that it's on about this football team from the Tigers of England to the British
Yeah.
seas.
Oh, my favorite football club is simply because of the culture of the club. Is a club in Italy, a third tier club called Livorno, and like they hold up portraits of Stalin and pro-Palestinian shit during games and stuff. Like they're a communist club, and like their club legend was
Nice.
this defender who retired like a few years ago. Like lifelong communists and stuff. Like it's like a communist club. It's pretty dope.
No, I
But
think that is absolutely dope.
to succeed in football, you have to be ultra rich. So no success for people like that.
But you know, a good communist doesn't want success like that. I don't think.
Well, I
Like
just
I know
define
it's
success differently. You know, I think fulfilling different. You know, successful to me isn't what it is to a capitalist person. You know, like your
no, to
commodity.
me it's helping people and trying to build a
Yeah.
better future and all that. I've never been able to help myself, so I don't see the point in doing that. I'm shit at doing that. I'm good at helping other people though.
You gotta work on that self help though. But it's good that you do help other people. But you also you gotta look after yourself. I know it's hard, but you know it's just something you gotta work on. You
I've
know,
been
it's
learning that and getting that. That's why I'm trying to get mental health support. But America and Britain, if we have anything in common, it's the mental health support don't exist.
right, right. I've heard it's a nightmare trying to get mental health support in the UK with the NHS and everything.
The trust system is what fucks it up because even if you could get good support, there are separate trusts for separate foundations of the mental health system because it's all split with psychological, mental health, neurological health, and then you've got all the different complications in between, all the different departments all split
Right,
apart the
right.
fucking board, and then every other foundation of the NHS is also in its own little trust, and these trusts are all separate private companies.
Oh wow, that sucks.
It's set up to be sold. Like they're still owned by the government, kind of. They're private charitable trusts, so they're not owned by the government, but they are owned by the government. It's sort of it's similar to the way that like during the Cold War, Britain used this with a few things where you will have like a state directed industry where it's a charitable private trust. It's private property, not state property or state owned private property. But you know, it's executive boards that are either put up by the state or by a board that is owned by the private trust that decides who's hired for this stuff. The doctor system works like this, where they have these doctors boards, and
So
then they're funded by the government.
It's private.
It's essentially private. It's just the only thing that's making it not private is the government funding it, and they'd still subsidize it if it was private anyway, but fully privatized anyway. Sorry, but so it's in a semi-privatized state. But the thing is, the way it works is that they give them money, but the way the rules work is if a department doesn't spend all the money, the doctors of the department that are, you know, the doctors working in their finances get to keep the money for their department afterwards, which you imagine where that money ends up going.
Yeah, I mean, how did that NHS doctor get that nice car, that nice crib?
While the
So
nurses are getting underpaid, and they didn't get a pay rise during COVID, by the way.
that's so fucked. And think about that. Like nurses are the legwork. They do all the hard work in hospitals and emergency settings and stuff. They do much more work than doctors. You know, like they're the ones who are stopping people immediately from dying before the doctor wanders his way in there. I know the doctor has limited resources, especially in a system that's so semi-privatized like the NHS and is stripped down to its bones at this point.
I
By
don't have
Tory.
sympathy for them because they literally, doctors, so nurses will never ask you this. They'll never ask you where you're from. They'll never ask you like, are you working class? Are you lump and all that? You go to A and fucking E, and there'll be a doctor with a clipboard that'll ask you what your profession is and all that, and you got to tell them and all that. And technically speaking, if you lie about something like that, you could fucking get done. I mean, you could probably try and pull up some I have a legal right to tell this, that, and the other, but not really with your medical record because it's basically seeing whether you come under what, this, that, and the other. And you know, everything is well documented. And when you mention your lumpen, you get shit care. I have had fucking equipment that I went to get an appointment with pulled out of the room, and the entire tactic changed to we don't do that for that thing. We need to do it this way. And completely get fucked, and I'm still dealing with issues now because of it.
That
I had my collarbone shattered, and I was told I need an operation on it. And next day, the orthopedic told me I could just stick it in a cast and it'll be fine in 7 weeks. A week later, my shoulder dropped and destroyed the nerves in my arm, and I've had no support for my nerves to be reconstructed.
fucking hell. That's so fucked.
Universal
Treat,
healthcare. We can't complain because it's free. That's the excuse.
I make the argument that you can complain because it's your fucking right as a human to have medical care.
I mean, I live in a flimsy fucking flat block, and I have people turn around and being, "You should just be grateful." It's like, no, because if anyone else got moved into it, I have a problem with it. And do you know what my main problem is? Is the problem it causes for the families in here, especially when the council decided to house someone with really bad mental instability in a building where every single one of them had just had newborn kids or they're like a year old.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Are they stupid? In a building that's hollow. They've heard me have mental breakdowns that I would never want any one of my kids hearing. The kids in this building.
Very bad. The mental breakdowns, I have them myself quite often. They're a very private affair, and you don't want to be seen in that state. You don't want people to see you, and it's it's like not like you had any agency or choice in where you were placed, And you say you should be grateful. What? I think everyone deserves to live with dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated as a human fucking being and not as some lesser scum. That's horrific. It's anti-human.
Do you know, if I denied this place, I would get dropped off the housing list onto Band C, and I would not get a house for fucking years. I have to take the one thing I'm offered on nothing unless I have a police report that says I can't go live there, or I have dutiful enough documentable reason why I can't live in that certain situation, whether disability or not. It's the only reason I have a downstairs yard, and I didn't even get that because I had enough documentable proof. I had to shout at them about how I'm a disabled person and I shouldn't have to pull this and that out of my ass to fucking tell you that I need a downstairs yard. But you know, one of the where they were looking to send me before I lost my temper, I said I refused to go to what we call the H block. It's called the H block now. It's this H block tower block fucking thing. It's about 10 stories high.
Like a project.
It's an old build from the old days of the old lumpen areas. Like, this has always been a lumpen build.
Old ass council.
Old house council flat block, and it has a big green prison gate, the old electric ones that take half an hour to open. That's how you get in and out of it. You gotta wait for it to open. You get mugged there if you're fucking not big enough to fucking defend yourself when you're moving about. You're gonna get mugged. That's fucking that's just gonna happen, and you're gonna get mugged in the building. You're gonna get your door kicked off, but not by anyone, but then everyone, because there's loads of grown people there. One of my favorite pieces of graffiti is in that building. Every stairs that you go up to a next section, it goes, "Do you see what I see?" And then it'll tell you about ghettos and how the council has abandoned us. And every step it gets more and more radical. It's some of the most communist shit I have ever seen written on the fucking set in this country.
That's art. That's straight up art, like revolutionary art. That's amazing.
It's beautiful.
And I want to say that our equivalent to council housing in the States, something called Section 8 housing, and it's even more limited. As limited as council housing is, it's even more limited. And what they throw people into is, just like you said, like very similar to that H block you were talking about, just a hostile environment and just dirty, destructive, and really no care for these people. Just abandoned people that they can stick in a block.
I know lovely old women that have been put in there, and they leave the building at 7 in the morning and go back late at night. They do not stay in the building. I was speaking to her when she was outside. She has to smoke like already pre-made straight cigarettes because roll-ups cause a really bad problems with her lungs. Like, but she was. It was a really fucking hitting conversation, and the cleaners get abused for the building, and all the other people are like, this is not the fault of these lumpen people. They're disenfranchised, but they're getting thrown into this building that's like a prison, and you throw a lumpen person into like a prison, and they're disenfranchised, and they're reactionary. They are going to hit out at the people around them and the people about them, and it's going to be these innocent people that get hit first.
Yeah, well, it's a cry. It's a cry of alienation and frustration and abandonment. What
and
are you gonna
fear.
do when you back someone into a corner who's trying to survive? They're gonna fucking swing back.
It
That's what's
comes to
gonna
fear
happen.
as well. You stuck them
Yeah,
in like a lot of these are some of the most dangerous people in the town have lived in there at the same time, drug dealers and a lot. And I'm not insulting them, but it's like you have this conglomeration, all these big people, and you're a smaller fish, but you want to still feel big. You'll pick on the people that you can pick on in there, like cleaners and stuff.
yeah, absolutely. It's fucked.
But I got a lot of respect. My mate Jason was fucking surviving it out there, living in that building, and I got a lot of respect for the shit he's gone through and done through. Someone like my father, who's also, like, funnily enough, things called Jason, but a welder, a fabricator, and he does. My dad's not a fabricator for a boatyard; he does fabricating for a steel company. But this lad, he's a fabricator for a canal boatyard. He ain't some proper well paid or anything like that worker. He gets bits of cash in hand as he does his bits and pieces about himself. But he's a good lad. He works hard. He tries hard, and he just gets fucked about by here, there, and everyone. He's gone through a lot of alcoholism problems, but comes to that volition of people in the lump, and they push on like no one else.
Absolutely. And how can you blame a member of the Lumpen who's so alienated and literally kept out, forcibly kept out uh, of socially acceptable society? And of course, they're going to look for methods to numb the harsh reality and pain that they're forced into with whatever way that they know how. And they're going to lash out. Of course, they will. Who wouldn't? It's irrational to think that putting like forcing people into this situation will solve the problem. They're of course going to. It's going to be an issue. They're going to lash out. There's going to be petty crimes and uh, uh, you know discord between these people that isn't good. It's not going to be a conducive place to build a community up. It's just not a place where you can build a proper community. It's like you said. It's like a ghetto. It's gathering the unwanteds, the undesirables in one place and just forgetting them. And it's some of the most disgusting and inhuman things that we do in our society today.
This is where it comes to the issue of communists now again, and especially this is especially for first world communists. It's like we need to be in the ghetto. We need to be in that mindset. I almost feel that the Panthers are right on it. Like it's almost like gangster communism. It's the way forward. We've got to be engaged in that lifestyle and that culture because that is the lumpen culture. And if we're going to disown that, if we're going to be like the aristocrats are, where they try and talk petty on it and they shit on people for being a part of gang culture and call them all pussy-holes and all that, be like that, but you're just going to get your head smashed in. We need to be the ones that are on the sides of those smashing their heads in and get into their heads and understand why it is that they want to see things one way or another and show them the way that we're seeing. And we can only do that with lumpen people ourselves, so that we can, you know, through our own experiences, relate to these people and breach down these ideas, learn from them, they learn from us, because there's going to be a hell of a lot that, regardless of how wrong they are, that they've got right that we haven't, regardless of what
Mm,
fucking side of the aisle they look at things, because ideology is a very frail concept as far as I'm concerned, and
mm.
it always ends up being a sort of mask for class interests a lot of the time.
Absolutely. Wow. Very well. I couldn't have said anything better myself. I feel like you just expressed ideas in my head that I haven't been able to get out. Especially, like, yeah, absolutely. Um, there's this. Yeah, there's nothing I can add on. You're right.
It's engaging. A lot of this comes from engaging with Net and a lot of the discussions of that, because me and Net will get it down. Like as much as on the
Sometimes
third
yes,
world,
sometimes
I
no.
get.
They're not a monolith. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It really depends on the motivations, and that's the truth. That's just the
But
truth.
but I mean it. So I mean, like, a lot of the things that I've come out and said, is also stuff that I've never really been able to proper word salad, because you get so, when you're a communist, you just sort of think about the communism you're doing. You don't think about it too much of an ideology, but you think of yourself following an ideology, and so, well, why does it need to be followed by an ideology? I follow my class politics, and that's what we're following here. That's what we're dropping down here. And it dropped into a lot of the stuff that me and Nev have gotten into when, as much as I'm a third worldist, I end up getting into a lot of the philosophical conversations with him, like the fucking Maoist as can be. But we break down into business over a hell of a lot of stuff, and it makes me come to the infraction of, yeah, no, this is coming about class politics, because if there's one thing that I can link like towards sort of like the Denmarxists and the third worldists is that we are both third worldists. We are both looking from that angle. We are both wanting to build socialism. We are both wanting to push forward. So there is this
Feel
not
that shit,
necessary.
bro.
There's not a necessity for ideology itself. There's a necessity of uh, what doctrine, and that comes into the discussion of anarchists. They have the
Right.
right doctrine.
Yeah, and further to your point, I like to simplify what you just said. Is that what I mentioned earlier in one of my videos? It's collectively, beyond tendency, beyond ideological labels, there is a tendency amongst revolutionaries, and it's an organic revolutionary tendency. People who have their ear on the beating heart of the masses, who are touching grass, who are amongst the people who listen to their and who listen to what they have to say and try to solve their problems, as opposed to staying from a high place of knowing better and hoping that everyone adapts to what you're saying and to what your ideas are. Yes, MLs like me have had proven success and throughout history, but we can't write off the coattails of that success. We have to understand that other people know more about us in certain aspects of revolutionary ideals, and I think that the most advanced representation of that is Pantherism out of the old Black Panther Party, and that we really need to examine what this ideology of the Panthers and what it means to the American conditions of the 21st century and of right now. And we really need to re-examine what the lumpen and the lumpenized proletariat mean with the dwindling industrial working class that almost no longer exists, due to it being exported and exploited in the third world. So that's where we are, and we really need to change our analysis of things if we're going to ever make any progress and appeal to the sensibilities of the people we claim to fight for.
Do you know what? Do you know what I think is most important? Because I feel that like getting people to side with the lumpen as a revolutionary class isn't the hard bit. I think the hard bit actually comes more into where we look to the actual intellectuals of the vanguard, because we just think intellectual eyebrow aristocrat. No, 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 no. We need to look to Gramsci and organic intellectuality. Like this comes
Yes.
into like the organic things you're talking about earlier. There's absolutely right on with it. The organic intellectuals would be the leaders of the revolution. Like intellectuals of the petty bourgeois class should be in a rear guard. Is what I didn't come up with it. I don't think he might have either, but he might have, because he is Irish, and you know what they are like with their revolutionary shit. They're right on it. Because my comrade Rowan, he did a lot of work with the Revolutionary Lumpen Radio. Um, the rear guard is where they should be, where they've not got any actual like ability to cement any power or anything like that. They've just, their knowledge is at full ability to be exploited and put out there and put onto the table, serving the people, so that they're not in a position where the aristocracy can default to their class behaviors, because it's sort of what we've seen happen a lot over the last century.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with um yeah, I mean, this is a smart guy, folks. I mean, if you get everyone says that Northerners sound stupid, but listen to what the fuck he's saying. Northerners don't sound stupid now.
Oh yeah, nah, bloody, what's it? Grow up in shoebox in the middle of the road. You just have to sweep it clean
Car
12 hours a day.
on road. Car on road. Car on road.
Look, clean road, fucking 12 hours a day. Go lick clean with tongue. And then my dad would beat me for 12 hours a day when I come back home for not eating my dinner. Anyone who's not watched Four Yorkshiremen should watch Four Yorkshiremen or anything from Monty Python. They are fucking hilarious. I mean, they're actually proof that aristocrats can bathe in proletarian culture at times, like actually somewhat accurately, because John Cleese, for example, outright aristocrat, he's one of the main people in comedy that brought proletarian comedy forward in Britain. So aristocrats can do good things for the movements at times. They
Life of
even
Brian
like that.
is one of my favorites, despite its uh, somewhat transphobic nature. I think it's one of the greatest commentaries that they did that the Monty Python crew did. I thought Life of Brian is so good. Like just this dude named Brian, just his life happening concurrently to Jesus. Just unrelated fucking crazy shit happening. It's hilarious. We're the Judean Liberation Front, not those silly Front for Judean Liberation, like shit like that.
What did the Romans ever give us? Except for the aqueducts, education, clean streets, fight from crime, and
As a joke, I actually sent that Get Chan video to Dr. Weisfeld once. He loved it because it was a thing we were picking stuff up in 2018. In response to Trump's decision on Jerusalem, which somehow informs the state of Israel, which tells you who's really in charge. It's kind of funny. But I remember sending him, like, we were talking about like communist support and the sectarianism. That was the first barrier. And I sent him that song. I said, so true. That's communism for you. And I know that triggers
angers. Angers. Does it the stone that starts fucking yelling? No, name it Mark for nothing.
Oh, jeez.
My name is unfortunately plastered with Christian names, and then I just have an old Saxonized Cumbric name. What's it? I won't say what it is, but it means tender of farmland, which you'd never be able to find out what it is because there's so many different Cumbric words that means tender of farmland. Good luck.
Well,
oh yeah, and you couldn't find it anyway because Cumbric language is dead.
My full birth name is Connor Gillis Bartell. So you can see the whole story.
Actually, me personally, yes, because I think that is the only answer. Even if it means that our two teams have to meet in the streets to fight, which would be glorious and fun. But the point I'm saying is that, yeah, because how are you going to fix a damn system like this? I mean, like, I'm not going to stop certain reforms that people try to pass as long as those that really fought for them get the credit, which is kind of one of the reasons why, like, people want this stuff. Well, one of the agreements we're supposed to have with the American Lenists is, do you guys get that weird reform nonsense passed that we don't want? Because we think it would kill it down. We will fight to make sure people remember you won it. That was our deal. Like, I talked to Stone.
Let me just say that I root for the organic process of revolution and the flow of history through the masses. The masses are the ones that do revolution and change society. We shouldn't root for anything to happen. The masses will make it happen. We just need to clarify our position and organize properly if we are going to be taking a helmsman role in this thing that is called revolution.
We need to get rid of this adherence to these heads of this and these heads of that as well. Like, I don't care about, like, I support the works that these communist leaders have put towards this, that, and the other, but to have them as these, like, big, staunchant heads that we've got to fucking plug on plaques, no, fuck off.
I agree.
I'm done with that.
Well, even though I love the art, but outside of the old socialist realist art that I love, and there's nothing wrong with communist propaganda. Like the Stone Soviet said, like upholding what they accomplished and what they contributed and everything. But yeah, like we're not. Whenever we start treating figures like gods, it's like kind of getting to the point to where it's an anti what we're about.
It's also desecrating the religious folk that do believe in actual gods as well, the way that we're behaving. Because like a lot of these people will turn around and say that religion is a bad thing, but then they will go and worship Marx and Engels like they're fucking godlike figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That reminds me of my video title. Lenin wasn't a prophet, just a man. It pissed off.
Are you sure about that? Because he picked an heir, didn't he? He picked Trotsky as an heir, like. So let's do someone special.
That's a myth.
But Trotsky said it was true.
Trotsky, very trustworthy person.
He's a reliable source.
Letters between him and his son Sadov that were released in the 80s and analyzed by Trotskyist historian Pierre Bruet. Well, what did they say again? Oh yeah, he did collaborate with the Nazis to have the Soviet government overthrown, and with the military for the coup, like the Tukhachevsky.
Wait, did you say the descendant of Trotsky?
I haven't had the chance to research the sources. You got to understand why I'm skeptical. Like,
No, but I was just wanting
a
to
lot
ask:
of people
did you
say,
say
well,
a son of
let's go over
like a
first that
descendant of
it's true. Like, how does
Trotsky?
that make it true, though? I'm not saying it's not true. I've needed like at least
Wait, did you
sources
say
with
that a
like.
descendant of
Because it was
Trotsky
written
confirmed
by
this?
it was Trotsky's own letters. I don't know.
Okay,
I mean,
now that I heard you say, and I actually, like I said, that's what I'm really interested in because that's
Okay,
the
so yeah,
solid.
okay, no, so
that's
there's
what
two
the
sources that come
analysis
into
of
this.
that's what the analysis of the Trotsky Harvard archives that were released in the 80s.
And
Yeah,
And
see,
so
this is how we demark it. Hey, so
no,
this is
no,
what I'm reminding you. It's not that your words are bad, but because of the behaviors you mentioned, this is how we demarcus feel. Is like it's like defiance towards communism, not because we're against the concepts, but the way in which it's been used since the time of Marx, which didn't stop through Lenin and Stalin, or even that much through Mao. Mao, I think, fixed things, but I think Mao backtracked, and I think like it's just.
I agree, but this comes into a big problem with it all. But the thing I'd like to get in with Trotsky
That's
is
why
that,
you
like,
can't uphold heads. It's not. It's actually it's
well,
like Jesus said, it's a demagoguery problem.
I just
but
fundamentally don't think of the tendencies like y'all do. I just don't think they exist how y'all and manifest how y'all think they do.
Is that
Y'all
part
talk
of
a
your
lot
crypto
about
third
it.
worldism?
Y'all talk a lot about essential. Not. I'm not talking about you, Stone. I'm talking about you specifically, Comrade Net. You talk about things like a lot of things have essential qualities, and I understand that maybe that's where you're coming from. But and the way you talk about ideology and its essential qualities, like I don't see Marxism Leninism as some like ideological framework or position. I see it simply as a tool of clarification and a suggestion of organization. Not even a universal suggestion, but just a pretty good one. And
yeah, I
I
like that.
don't like, and I don't see Maoism. I don't see Maoism as some sort of like advancement of Marxism Leninism, because Marxism Leninism isn't something that needs advancing. It's just a tool. It's just a tool that
I
adapts
disagree.
forever. Now, Maoism is just different. It adapted differently. It's a different Leninist ideology. And the same for, third worldism adapted from Maoism, but its current iteration doesn't even have that much ties to Maoism anymore. And
I
and
disagree
so
with it.
all of these things like are forever developing, and none of them have these essential qualities that you prescribe to these things. Like I'm living proof that there aren't essential qualities to things like Marxist Leninists or third worldists and stuff, because I'm a Marxist Leninist, and yet there's nothing that you could say of your qualms about Marxism Leninism that apply to me. So
Well,
I
see,
mean,
like I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna let you know something. I explained this to Stone. This actually comes from the early democracy literature. Like everything you said is true, but like I deliberately poke labels as safe words. It's a thing I do, and like because I'm waiting for you to say that stuff where you say tool of clarification. Because Donna Newman adopted that. She said that she was watching, so that she said yes, because that's what we were doing in the Bundist movement. It wasn't that we were becoming that. We added that in because the Bund had always been informed through Trotskyism and anarchism, and it did help. But there was this gap, and it was the solid material stuff that you got from Marxism, Leninism, and arguably Maoism. I'm not. We're not going into a sectarian thing about that, but like that is the thing, though. What is definitely the case is that you have these tendencies ever evolving. So it puts into question if these tendencies ever existed at all in a lot of ways. Like anything past Lenin, how do we
that's a
know
Yeah,
it's
whole
well,
not?
different
okay,
I'm not
so
saying the ML position is correct, but they do hold an
no,
argument that we often forget what the actual ML argument against the, it's not against, it's more like,
no,
because
but this comes into no. This so
tendency, for instance.
I know what you're getting at because you're getting at this earlier. I want to bring this up because your point is actually really interesting. So this comes into like I did mention this a bit earlier in the start of the stream when it was going on things is that like and you actually put me up to this is that the Maoists, they lost something that the Lenists really had, and that's the really well planned out transition. It's sort of the Maoists have the really good ideas for what we can do within the transition period, but it's not sort of well plotted out. There's almost like that loss of essency with the other stuff like that. But that's because Maoism expanded the philosophy in a way where they brought dialectics the ability for it to expand itself and not be so rigid in the way in which determinalism was taking it on. But this is something that Gramsci also got to too. Like this is something I'd say about Gramsci. Gramsci was almost like proto-Maoistic in some of the ideas he come up with.
I agree. Yeah, I've never really thought about that, but anyone who's read his, well, everyone should read the prison notebooks. It's a brilliant work of philosophy and in
You'll
theory.
jerk off while you read that. Everyone, trust me. Even if you don't have a penis, you'll still jerk off. You'll
Yeah,
you'll find a way.
it's a truly brilliant work, and the context of where it's written, like him smuggling out notebooks while he's arrested by Mussolini's fascist state, while Trotsky was touring the country with Mussolini, he was in there fucking creating one of the greatest works of theory of the 20th century. Everyone should read Gramsci. I feel like he's totally underrated. He's amazing.
Just people need to stay away from 60s onwards French and Euro-communist reinterpretations of Gramsci, because they abused the fact that he had to use specific language to get past the fascists in prison, and they perversed it into some aristocratic bollocks. But Gramsci was anti-aristocracy. If you read his works for what they are, and you can see the types of terminology he's using around the cultural hegemony of capitalism and fascism, he is talking about the aristocracy. They are the cultural bloc. Capitalists don't have an actual culture. Their culture is robbing, stealing, thieving, and destroying people's lives and making as much money as possible. It's the aristocracy that gets to enjoy life.
Absolutely. And anyone who has ever, from the moment I started making YouTube videos, who's ever listened to me talk, my shit's dripping in Gramsci.
It's one of the things I like what you say,
and I think everyone should read him. And he's so important. I think for people, for really to clarify, what exactly Stone was talking about, like the culture that is used by the ruling class, but not necessarily sourced from them, to instill certain consciousness into the masses. It's very interesting stuff.
I mean, it comes into because my biggest criticism of it all, and everyone thinks I'm just I anti-labor aristocracy, so I hate labor aristocratic class traitors. No. The problem I have is that it's not a problem with these people being bad people. It's a problem of class conditions causing people to behave in a certain way. And if you look at the downfall of socialism, you can very much see where the labor aristocracy's class contradictions are very heavily involved in that, and they want to build a petty bourgeois socialism. The point I like to make out is that I feel that the way that people will still use socialism, utopian, or scientific against anarchism today is stupid, because the organic anarchists are quite scientific. But I think that it shouldn't be disregarded, because that book isn't just about that. It is a problem that we've had in this one now. We think it's about that. Actually, if you look at what the anarchists' criticism of those days, it's the same anarchists that these anarchists that today would criticize them for very similar reasons, because they were feudalists using this movement to try and bring back their own power. Well, these anarchists aren't that. So that's a completely different thing. So we need to separate from that and look at it as a critique of the labor aristocracy, which is what it is, and how they are going to try and co-opt socialism, because you can apply everything that he said would happen with the labor aristocracy that was forming around the anarchist movements. You can apply that exactly to the communist movements, like the Soviet Union, for example. The refusal of proletarianization in the Soviet Union. That's what caused that country to divide.
Yeah, absolutely. And wow, it really, you just clarified something that I didn't say in my video about anarchism, about how the founders of the anarchists who coined the term, these people who are criticized in these books, right? How they were labor aristocrats and petty bourgeois.
Some of them is proper borderline slave holding, with the way their serfs were led, like chain gang serf, fucking feudal lords and peasants.
Kropotkin came from a serf family and served in the imperial military, but he disavowed all that bullshit. Kropotkin was actually a pretty decent guy.
It's not Kropotkin, but it was the bad one. It was Bakunin, was his name?
Yeah, the anti-Semitic guy.
He was a big bad feudal lord.
In Marxism, and the state was because of Jews. That's his whole reasoning, and that's why we need to separate what modern organic anarchism. I mean, even anarchism of the 20th century that takes revolutionary and organic shape. It was so disconnected from that of the past, and a lot of people from my tradition of Marxism Leninism come into understanding anarchism through the lens of these aristocrats who founded it, and as you said, it's really a critique of the aristocrats and not really anarchism.
These people don't see it as like they see it as a critique of anarchism, and then they'll critique like Catalonia or
There's a
Ukraine.
lot of evidence for this throughout, particularly quotes and everything. But I am more. I've always thought that Proudhon was a lot more slick and messed up about it. To be honest with you.
Who?
Proudhon.
Proudhon.
Sorry, Proudhon. Like, you see, man, this is why Russians think I'm funny. I can never pronounce anything. With the Slavs, I can never pronounce everything. It's the same thing with the Polish. I can never pronounce anything.
To speak French, you must remove 7 brain cells.
Social Democrat, so it tells you a lot about him.
If you remove 7 brain cells, then speaking French is easier. Just as a hint. We learned that the hard way by being shot by the French.
Some sort of Anglo bias that we're seeing here manifesting.
They got guns first, so they shot at us first. So technically, it's not our fault.
Are any less innocent of being shitty?
Well, do you know the French did colonize us at one point? So
that's
fucking
true.
Norman bastards.
Well, then technically, they were Viking French, descendants of Vikings.
Okay, yeah, they were a bunch of Swedish people pretending to be Romans in fucking Frankish territory.
It's true. William the Bastard. He came and fucked shit up.
We'd already been bombed by the Vikings enough anyway. Like, you raped the fucking North.
Right. You already had like the Daneland, which was basically the North. In the Northeast and around York and stuff, it was Daneland.
So
and like it was officially run by Vikings, and the last kingdom was Wessex in the end. And eventually they came back. The Anglo-Saxons came back, and took over.
You're forgetting about when Mercia stopped them. Mercia stopped them first.
Yeah, that's true.
Under the leadership of Ethelflaed, who was a bird, as in a woman. So English slang, bird. But she was. According to the plaque they put in the middle of the town, apparently it's just some piff bird, but I don't think that's an accurate representation.
That
means attractive femoid for those of the American populace.
And funnily enough, the Saxons invaded too and colonized too. The OGs are like the Gaelic peoples, the Britons,
the Cumbrics, the Britons. Yeah, but Breton is actually just an Anglo term for anyone who's a native of the British Isles.
Ah, I see. I didn't know that. Cornish.
Yeah, the Anglos don't see themselves as Bretons, which is funny when they call themselves British people.
I work to get past it. This is how I talk about Serbians. I've had bad runs-ins. It's actually one of the things that motivated me to really challenge racism is I find I'm still racist towards Serbians. I'm trying to fix this. It happens with trauma amongst nationalities, and it's one of the things I think that holds back socialism.
As a Russian, you should feel empathy for your Southern Slavic cousins.
I mean, being ex-Yugo yourself, but here's the thing. Being of ex-Yugo descent yourself, you've got that brotherhood within that there's sort of that sort of like connection there. I mean, some comes with like the Anglos and the Celts are going to have some sense of probably less at some point when they actually get past all the scars that have happened. But this is the thing. This is something that me learning a lot about my past as a communist and learning about all these bits and pieces. It scars me as well. I have Cumbric and Irish descent, and none of that culture is in my family.
Yeah, I mean, it was like when it comes to Irish culture, our family grew up Catholic. Like, funnily enough, I'm a Jew, and I grew up in an Irish Catholic house. But my father's side of the family, my father never came to church with us because he was an Anglican, or we call him here. Well, that's what he was raised as. We call him here. What do we call those fuckers? Episcopalian. It's like the Church of England in North America.
God, that's gonna be like mega fucking shit.
Well, they're actually one of the most progressive strands around here.
That's the opposite here.
yeah. They have like lesbian leaders of church priests and stuff. They're pretty dope. They're very independent of the Church of England. That's why they call themselves something different. But it came from the original tradition, so it's kind of just like progressive Catholicism without a pope.
Yeah, Church of England's very Protestant.
And anyway, so half of my my ancestry is Ulster Scots. The other half is a little bit of German, but mostly like Munster Irish, and the other half is like County Derry, Ulster Scots, Protestants in the north. And I grew up in a Catholic household. I was very irreligious because of that, and then it wasn't until my very recent adulthood that I
Can you hear me?
became religious again. What's up, Falcone?
Oh, okay. Talking about how I have Cumbric descent, but 800 years ago, Cumbric culture was genocided from Britain, so I have no connection to it.
Sucks.
Oh. Damn.
My family
Yeah,
originate from
like,
Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. Yorkshire being part of the Cumbric territories, and Lincolnshire being part of the Northumbric territories, which have relations to the Cumbric and another form of Celts, which I cannot remember the name of. I think they were just called Breton, but the Breton is a very sort of mixed term as to the way it's utilised. The Irish called the Bretons the original Welsh. And to be honest, the Irish have the best like sort of chronicalization of Gaelic and Celtic culture. So I mean,
yeah.
to be honest though, I don't like the way the Irish sort of can be like some Irish can be somewhat like ignorant of the Welsh issue in regards to the Celtic struggle. Like they'll be really united with the Scottish, but then the Welsh get sort of left behind.
The Welsh are dope. God bless the Welsh. From
They
Wales.
were,
Sorry.
well, no, the
I
reason why I get
actually
really
met
pissy
some
about the
Welsh
Welsh is that there are some really good ones out there, but I mean, it's like the reason why I've got a bit pissy about the Welsh is the Welsh oppression is the one that's the most least talked about, and it was a hell of a lot worse than the Scottish. Sorry, Wales was just used as a just outright plantation,
That is true.
other than Cardiff, which is the white place.
And now we have Gareth Bale.
All right, so Falcone, what's up?
But before, actually,
nothing but... Oh, wait. Yeah?
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, I just wanted to say something about Wales. Wales actually means foreign or strange in I think it's either Old English or Cymric. Cymru is the actual name of the country,
Cymru,
or
yeah.
Cymru.
It's like Cymru, right?
Serious?
Like the party.
Yeah, it means land of the fellow people.
That's cool.
It's what
Yeah.
Cumbria means as well for the Cumbric people.
Love it. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, Cumbria, Cumbrian, all the other little similar things like that. They all mean the same thing. Cumbric language would be the Cumbric language would have a very lot of similarities to Old Welsh. So people are actually discussing whether they should base it off like the ancient sort of bits that's still around and build it up off that, or whether they should use the modernized Welsh to build modernized Cumbric, or imagine modernized Cumbric based off what existed before it. There's loads of like it's a mixed discussion, and I don't think anything's coming from it.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wait for jokes until Falcone speaks right now, because like I'm having a hard time keeping up. Like I had short.
Yeah, Falcone,
I
I
can't
cut you
remember
up.
what
So.
you just said Welsh means. Like I told you, my memory, like
Oh,
no
foreign
sleep,
or
like
strange.
the bad stuff, all the stuff
Wait.
going on is mean like a bad like lack of sleep.
Okay.
Like I can't think of alt right. Like, that's why I'm having more than usual people on here. Is like you're kind of guiding this so that we can.
How just put my arm with the fucking lighter.
Wales,
Oh, you decided against
Wales
it.
is kind of like calling someone white. Wales kind of is like Waigwal. It means Waigwal is like foreign land in Chinese, and Waigwalren is foreigner. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Because it's from what I was told by a Welsh person. Sorry for cutting you off. I really apologise, but I was told this by they're half Welsh, half Luxembourg, a trans person. She's just what's it sound lass, but the she told me about how it was an insult basically drafted upon them from the Anglo-Saxons. And so the Party of Wales doesn't call it Party of Wales, it calls it the Labour Party of Cymru.
Okay, MRM Youth is here.
So I was gonna say this mostly. I just got back from like a whole call with a headache, and mostly I just have a bunch of free time, and basically I just been now getting ready to research street epistemology and finish my MLM study playlist that Net provided me with. And recently I just saw my YouTube feed that I've been getting a lot of hate comments after I made Defend the Life of Chairman Gonzalo, and I just like am getting about to lose like my 300 sub mark for some reason, and I'd be getting a bunch of hate comments nowadays, which is just shocking at this point now.
I don't know why now. It's not like you've ever not talked about Gonzalo, and people
Yeah,
should already know by now that like you're not some Gonzaloite, but you're just
yeah.
you're just looking out for the humanity of a revolutionary. It's like kind of like where's the
No,
empathy from people?
I'm a hard critic of you, but I'm still fucking subscribed because it's not like you're a fucking bad communist because of it. Like people are being utterly
I
ridiculous if
know.
they think that's the fucking problem. They can
Like,
criticize you for it. I don't know why they need to say nasty things to you directly.
like
Like this is fucking.
literally, it just sounds like Fujimoriite parroting. Like I start giving like these nicknames, like Fujimoriite. Like I remember I trolled you, Stone, about it. I'm like, okay, Fujimoriite, or some shit like that. Where
Well,
like I was just going like, wow, a bunch of Fujimoriite spamming on my parroting on my
Yeah,
comment
but this is
section.
one of the things that brings us back, because I did mention it's a dead man that Falcone is like has been going under a type of harassment. She's been like we've noticed
Yeah,
harassment. Yeah, and that there's been different elements that have tried to co-opt her friends that try to join immediately. Like I mean,
yeah,
I wasn't trying to be alarmist, but like I have now said that I think we're looking at a type of virtual control pro in a way, and I don't want to sound pretty. It's just the patterns are looking really goofy. Like this is a consistent weirdness. It's not just that. I don't know if they can necessarily demonetize. I think there's something shady going on within YouTube itself. Like I think
yeah.
they're monitored. They have monitors that actually go in and screw with us. I mean, you wouldn't know. It's not audited. Corporations don't get audited like governments do.
it's
Well,
been
let
like,
me just tell you how YouTube functions
uh,
a little bit.
Sure.
So, the less advertiser friendly you are, whether or not you run ads or not, the algorithm will put you at the bottom and they flag something. Some things that aren't advertiser friendly is anti imperialism, communism, anti corporate, anti capitalism, because, you know, they're a capitalist entity. This sort of stuff is usually buried in the algorithm. But when these sort of things do start to arise in the algorithm, they have these synthetic ways to literally desubscribe from people and stuff like that, and or suggest
Yeah.
your video
Oh,
to
also, they're not
people
only
more
so they.
like you.
Sorry for cutting you up on this, but they actually advanced the desubscribing now. Rather than unsubscribing people, you'll now stay
yeah,
subscribed, but the counter doesn't go up. Jimmy Dore's subscribe counter has been the same for fucking months. So you're telling me Jimmy Dore has got more subscribers since
yeah,
fucking. Actually, it's been like more than a year now. More subscribers since Medicare for All when he did the Force to Vote. No, Jimmy Dore's soared in
Just
popularity
look
since
at his
Force to Vote.
views. Just
He's
look
one
at
of
his
the most
oh,
views.
popular things on
to
YouTube.
also post as an example, like fellow traveler, like he would stay at the mark of like 100 and not 100, 1099 to 1098, and then finally got over 2000 subs. Or like how Jason is like still like near, just like still at the 41,000 sub mark and still being suppressed to this day. And
Well, I've
like,
been here for 5 years and I barely broke 1,000, and it fluctuates down and up. Like
yeah,
I lose a lot of subscribers, and then I get some back, and you know, thanks to people like
yeah,
Jason, like
Okay,
I'm able to maintain them, and thanks to people like y'all, you know, just networking and stuff. But
yeah,
you know, the fact that Jason like says the name of my channel, it keeps me afloat sometimes. The fact that
yeah.
he and they're trying to attack him, and so it's like,
Yeah, the other thing is as well as like now I just like it's kind of the other weird thing I found out is that now I built a reputation of just being a fucking coordinator
a
nowadays.
coordinator.
Yeah, coordinator because mostly I just like coordinate like meetings between people. Like I had to like the reason why Deadman and the Angles this even showed up on that 4th of July stream is because Dark Sinovia asked me to coordinate it and basically have these people on the show and stuff like that to talk about how much 4th of July is bullshit.
Ugh.
like like basically I just got that reputation now, and nowadays like basically you just have like YouTube just like suppressing like channels left and right now where they just keep it down and just like make sure you don't get any success at all. Like that's the other
And
thing.
fireworks
Yeah.
So
exploding
what's it?
on the 4th
Yeah,
of
Dark
July.
is right.
But here's the thing. There's an issue here that this is the reason why a lot of people should keep up with Jimmy Dore because he tells a lot of things that Graham Elwood has had this happen to him, but I think it's just going to happen to every leftist fucking channel of anything and everything, and everyone should just give up on focusing on being monetized or not. If you've been
Yeah.
completely demonetized, it's because this
I'm
happened to Graham
demonetized.
Elwood. But this happened to Graham Elwood, and Graham Elwood, if anyone's been keeping up, has been one of the most outspoken people on the Epstein case. Kept bringing it up, kept keeping it up. Very outspoken corporatism. And he did the government secrets thing with Lee Camp, and it's been very communistic, sympathetic, and it's gone on about also went on about the nuclear bombs in a very sort of aspect that talked about the fucking element towards
They want
trying
to
to
prove
big
me
up to
for
the Soviet
Not,
Union. That
I'm
government
eligible
secrets
for
podcast
monetization.
was
They want to prove me. I'm
not gonna
eligible for
lie.
it. They don't
but
approve.
Graham Elwood is a good watch. Graham Elwood's a good lad, and he's been completely
Not,
demonetized from YouTube. Utterly, we need to like he's gone on for a different platform or the cryptocurrency thing to be able to keep some form of money. And if that's the way that
not,
people are gonna have to like be able to be funded while they're doing this, that might be the new way.
can I say this? Not gonna lie, I stopped watching Graham Elwood and Lee Camp after this like whole thing when I started like interviewing like former members of the Movement for a People's Party, and then like Graham Elwood in a secret recording, which my former friend Franco got, where on Rockfin he was calling this guy who runs action for Assange basically some federal agent with no evidence.
All right,
And
remember I said we're suspending speaking of Caleb for a while in the meantime, okay?
yeah, basically with like no evidence and shit like that. Because like he's exposing like the MPP, and also then you had Lee Camp like not being like a real journalist and just like bringing on Nick Brana to basically just defend his organization, in my opinion.
I've never
Like,
trusted the MPP. It just seems to me like another lukewarm radical liberal project. Some of them were
yeah.
anti-war. Most of them didn't give a fuck about anti-war shit. They just cared about getting enough money to build this weirdo
Oh,
third that was
can
doomed to fail.
I can I tell you something? When I was on KRTD Media, they literally Jimmy Dore's wife and Jimmy Dore basically forced KRTD Media's hand to fire my friend, who is a former MPP petitioner, who was the PR director. They said this that we will drop out of the Solution Summit with Graham and Ron and others and with Jimmy, and basically, if your PR director is not fired, we will not participate in the Solution Summit. And so basically, they had to fire her, and they basically forced our hand and basically had them fire her. And
Also, they
that's like
pushed out all the communists, canceled all their shows, asked about
yeah,
going. They kicked out
yeah,
all the communists.
mine, Luke. Like we're still considered as hosts on their Discord server, but the other thing is, literally when one of the members of their network started calling them out for lacking journalistic integrity because they wouldn't reinstate Camilla, who is my friend, with her job, like they got into a fight with one of their other popular shows called The Hare and the Dog Show, and basically they disconnected. They basically like disassociated with each other publicly and had a public spat. And the other thing is, I found out that Jimmy and Steph had invested thousands of dollars into MPP. Thousands of dollars. This was disclosed by one of the members of the advisory board for KRTD Media. That's the other thing. It's like shocking, in my opinion.
Well, what we are working on the
This is
censorship
why I
thing.
don't deal
I
with
do
big
want to let
research
everybody know, like, I'm
politics.
talking to Dr. Weisfeld, but I got to take it easy on him right now, so I'm going to explain
Yeah.
why. Like, he's a bit overwhelmed with the new information. I mean, I don't even think he's like received all of it yet. And I'm, as everybody knows, I'm doing this multi thing. I'm doing this, by the way, because
Yeah.
I had an intense conversation, which was not a bad one. It was a very productive one. It was probably the most real conversation we had because remember, like, and I already had said so publicly. Both times I talked to Deadman, I was technically being hazed by Comrade Number 3. And I kind of told him this time because I could tell him that if I wanted, like, and we talked, and one of the things I mentioned is it's like, okay, look, remember your race and communism part one thing? Like you talk about a white social hegemony on YouTube. It's like, well, we're witnessing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're witnessing it right now. Like we are witnessing it. Like regardless of skin color, we're seeing this white social hegemony thing
Proof.
on the
It's
far
the
left, and
truth.
it's weird, and it's exclusively a white ML block, which doesn't even really do real ML theory when you get into what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, can I?
They're ML historians and book clubs is what they are. They're
Yeah.
not. They don't use Marxism Leninism as the tool of clarification that it is. They see it as a badge, and they love their history. They love being right about it.
Oh, I was gonna
regardless if they
mention.
are.
I was gonna mention is this like I
I'm
remember.
an ML, by the way. So the reason I'm so critical of MLs like this is because I am one, and I love them, and I want them to.
Oh, I was gonna say this. Basically, I remember one of my friends from my crew that I actually made. I actually made two crews for some fucking reason, but with my friend Skeptical Mantis in the Black Panther study group. He basically was asking me like, have I done any research on basically kind of like the uh left wing movements here in the United States, and I was like, no, not really, because like I've been mostly focused on my research in Peru, and I'm getting ready to start researching about Bangladesh, the Philippines, and India. And basically he like said like I should start like learning more about like the history here in the United States of like the leftist movements here in the United States. And I am like, yeah, like I think I should do that a bit more than go into
Yeah,
my
learn
research
about what's
about
going on
Bangladesh.
domestically, and if you learn about what's going on at home, and you really like understand the problems here and stuff like that, I feel like that's a good foundation for you to build off of
Yeah,
to be able to explore further into these other places and have a little bit more perspective based on our position in the world compared to theirs and to be able to form different ideas that way. It's a part of
yeah,
learning, definitely. And the leftist movement in the United States has a long history and there's many different aspects of it, and it's a beautiful history, really. I think a good place to start is even a non-Marxist place. Howard Zinn's The People's History of the United States is a good place to
oh, I
start.
have that book.
It's a
I
great one.
actually have, yeah, I haven't read it yet.
Well,
Oh,
that's
I
a
gotta
great place
read this
to
book
start.
for Arcanovia.
Yeah, that's a great place
Okay,
to start. For sure.
let me read it. He says, honestly, I just consider the most fascist I don't trust any of these people, Noah especially, or something like he said.
Noah's
Yeah,
deliberately provoking people, like we can see it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Noah's like deliberately provoking Dark. He literally was like deliberately going after Stone, and then started
He's
going
not
after
becoming as a Communist Party member. And I'm thinking about if y'all can get like a record of what he's done for me, I would very much like to report this to his local organizational secretary because that's not behavior that's allowed by Communist Party members.
and if anybody wants to share this because of this statement she made, please share this because like we're not trying to embarrass people, but there's some things that are being said and it's done and it's
We're
affecting us
communists.
all.
We're communists, and if you're a member, if you're a communist, I hold you to a much higher standard. But if you're a member of the Communist Party and you're acting like this is so unbecoming of people who claim to be the highest strata of our society, who claim it.
And it's
Like,
not
man,
clear if you have no evidence, homie. I mean, but I get you.
I would not be surprised if Noah turned out to be a Fed, but literally,
I
like,
wouldn't be surprised either per se because he
uh,
actually is stranger than B level. B level seems to be just trying to have somebody
like,
have a lot for the right. Like I understand that I'm kind of doing that now, but like
wait,
I can at least speak on my own. Like it's weird. Like the veil lifts off. You see with him, he
I
can't.
gotta,
He's powerless without somebody
I,
with him.
I gotta say this.
Fucking
I just like took Stone's like place of being like the internet troll, but Literally, I started trolling fucking Noah on YouTube after going after him, where I called him a fascist, and then I started going on like my second video. Hey, colonizer! I just call him a colonizer because that's what the fuck he is, and like literally, the guy acts like such a fucking chauvinist. I can't fucking stand fucking chauvinists for real.
For the record, he's
Don't worry about it too much. We're not trying to feel
for the
bad.
record,
This is more just
for
therapy.
the
Unless you guys
record,
want to explain.
for the record, he's half Turkish, Central Asian. No, like, but he is white. He's white passing.
Oh, okay.
Spilling the tea on. Is this some British racism I'm seeing here?
Uh,
Oh, have
wait.
you know that tea was something that we didn't even come up with, technically speaking. It's something that we've been doing for hundreds of thousands of years. So funny on me. And marijuana was one of the first few
kind of
things that we
funny of a
actually
bad
decided to
argument.
turn into tea. If you consider how long marijuana has existed on the planet and the fact that we have the most developed endocannabinoid system of any animal on the earth.
I was gonna
that we
say
know
that.
of.
I was gonna say, Bad Art Boy is kind of referencing, like, you know, like with drama channels, with like
You know, I
talking
got so
about
much fucking
they
sleep in them.
on like all this fucking drama and controversy or some shit like that. Used to be one, I know from experience, so no wonder why everybody called me a fucking drama channel.
I endorse this statement because I feel the same. I'm drinking tea all day, all the time. I'm like, this isn't primitive terrain. This
I think
is
the thing is,
I'm going to have to advocate for the birthplace of tea having the best tea. And I've went to the tea capital where tea came from originally, Yunnan province, and I've had all these specialties and stuff. And let me
Wow.
say, no other tea. Everyone who has tea borrowed it from the 20s. You're welcome.
I mean, I have a moonshine cup in my cupboard actually for tea.
Oh, can I
green
say
tea
this?
is so beautiful.
Kind of funny as it is, I actually made a country server called the Democratic People's Republic of Yorkshire. Originally, I was trying to get Comrade Socialist Swan to make it, but he wouldn't because he's lazy as fuck to even make it. But so
Really?
I just made it. And so basically, it's just like a Maoist Democratic People's Republic of Yorkshire. And then I started joining communities of country servers, and now I'm some ambassador to a bunch of these country servers, and now they just call me Ambassador Falcon.
You know, that reminds me of this happened many years ago. It was
Taking away my people.
I think it was right before I moved to China. I found this thing on Reddit called Model House of Commons, which is like a model House of Commons, and I went in there and we like role played some shit, and I was just like, I'm just gonna be a communist and try to fuck everything up. And we ended up like winning some sort of like regional election, getting Wales devolved even more, and we made it all fucking socialist and blocked all the legislation and stuff.
So we have a broker to China who needs to answer a question because it's a cultural question, should be answered by those that know. This is the question.
What?
Whoa. Sorry, let me say it again. Oh, what the heck? This is not what I said. Oh my gosh, he said, and then he said, oh, we're good. Oh.
An act of tea violence.
How much for a blowtorch? I don't know, man.
I don't know.
It's not never. What the?
How much in Yuan?
You're
tea violence.
Well, actually, I do want to ask a question. What is the top tea in Beijing? This is a real question.
Wait, are you saying you won't burn down the Yunnan province, or are you saying you won't burn down Yunnan? Because like there are two different things. Like please be specific.
He's committing tea espionage.
Yes. Yeah.
Espionage.
So let's ask some intriguing questions. Like I don't know if you know as much about Beijing, but I don't know anything about it.
We like to actually deal with the opium more than the tea.
Beijing is supposed to be like one of the most important cities historically, right?
What?
Beijing is supposed to be one of the most important stories. Sorry,
I want to know what we did to the Chinese.
don't, because I'm stumbling over my words. I need like quiet for a second. So Beijing is one of the most important cities historically. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's one of them, but there's many.
Okay.
There's some that I could argue is more that are more historical, like Xi'an, for example. I would say is much more historical. Nanjing is older and more historical. Nanjing
What
means
what what?
southern capital. Beijing
Well, what
means
I want to know
What
is
was
like
it? Was it?
in
Was
big
it? Was
cities,
it?
like
Was
are
it?
there
Was it?
particular shops that are famous,
One
like with?
at a time, guys. One at a time.
I have real tea questions.
So I know not so all too much about the ancient stuff, but I know one thing about someone's echoing. Fuck, I don't think you're echoing. But
Um,
what's it? There's one thing that I do remember hearing about China, and I know that one of the figures that associated to this era is actually appealed to be someone who's related to Jesus Christ, and enough, it's apparently a cousin, I do believe, who was a Chinese warlord, but it was during a period of time of this, there was an actual sort of like somewhat unified section of China that had a dominant position over other sections of China. I don't know a lot about it. I just remember hearing something when looking into Christian culture.
It's called the Taiping Rebellion, and a group of religious zealots who were upset with the Qing dynasty. This was, in the age when the Qing dynasty was at its end, mostly. And these people took over a large swath of southeastern China and held power for quite a long time until the rebellion was put down. Yeah, it's true. And they unified around a Jesus Christ-like figure. He said there was several of these people throughout Chinese history, but this one was much more recently. It's just very interesting. Yeah, there was a lot of these sort of spontaneous rebellions against the Qing dynasty towards its end. And the only one that was really successful that wasn't spontaneous but planned was the Xinhai Revolution of 1911, when the nationalists under the socialist leader of the KMT, Sun Yat-sen, and them overthrew the dynasty. It was very interesting.
Can you also one thing as well, like looking at some of sort of the past cultural influences, the colonialism that comes around, sort of like the Qing dynasty and Han colonialism and things like that. You can almost see like where a lot of it comes from a lot of the Eurocentric grooming that happened as well from Britain and Germany when they were trying to imperialize the country like they were doing with Russia.
Yeah, definitely.
And what's it? Germany tried to do this several times before, and Canada was used as an agent for Britain as well at one point.
Stone, I need to ask
And
this
that's how the ROC ended up becoming a pet to them as well with Taiwan.
From a very cosmopolitan-minded thing, knowing local, socializing and everything, it is an important cultural question to ask. Like, what metropolitan city with the most famous tea places? Because there's always those places we have the famous place because they have the best stuff. Like,
what's
what do you mean? It's China's a very regional place. Like the people from each region consider a certain city is more important than others. There's plenty of them. You have Chongqing, you have Chengdu, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, Shanghai. You have Luoyang.
I'd say you'd have to do it separately because of all the different regions almost have like different nations of peoples to them. So I think you would almost have to split it down.
Certainly, they're definitely. Well, they're not different nations because these people consider themselves a larger Chinese nation, but they're like different they're different cultures and ethnicities. And
I mean, it was sort of one of the things that they have always done with. I remember seeing one of the plays. There was always the big expression of it. How China is it has to have this greater expression of different sort of cultural sections of it. It's almost like getting onto a point that I like to lay down where culture, for it to really properly exist within an actual homogeneous sort of state, it needs to actually exist very much on a local basis. Otherwise, it's going to be extinguished in some sort of cold, crude manner.
Movement in 2010, right before I actually got to the south of China, where I spent most of my time in Guangdong, living in the two cities for most of my time, Guangzhou and Zhuhai. And Guangzhou is a very ancient city.
Oh,
Zhuhai
nice.
just used to be a fishing village that's now huge. But that's how a lot of the South is. South is the economically booming place. The South is where many people in China are moving to work. So there's people from
Yeah.
all over China in the South. You meet Uyghurs, you meet Tibetans, you meet the Hui Muslims, you meet the Hakka, you meet the people, the Manchus from the north, you meet all these, the Mo
Yeah.
and the Hua people, you meet all these different people, and they all have their languages and everything. But then there's a lot of internal. 80% of people within China migrate internally within the country to work, and they return
Yeah.
home for holidays and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, everywhere you go in China, you're meeting different Chinese people. But of course, you'll still have the majority of the people being locals. I lived in Guangdong the whole time, but everyone spoke Mandarin, but the locals also spoke Cantonese. I could never learn Cantonese, just a few words to get by if I was like on a bus or something, but everyone knew Mandarin. There was no point to learn a much more difficult language, or it wasn't as
Yeah.
easy, I should say. But
Yeah.
before I got there was actually a movement in southern China. There was big old protests outside of government buildings, peaceful protests, legal protests, where they demanded more Cantonese language media,
Oh,
and
nice.
demanded it, and they got it. They got what they got what they demanded. Now in Guangdong,
Wicked.
you can watch all the Cantonese TV shows and channels, or you can watch the Mandarin ones. They even have English ones. So yeah, pretty cool.
Can I?
I wish you would have they probably wouldn't. I don't know because I don't know the diplomatic jurisdictions on the state borders of like whether you're allowed to take back. But it would have been so cool to have like all this footage of that interesting stuff. Of course, I guess people would. I guess Americans would say, "See, there's protests again in China," so it probably
I
wouldn't be a
mean,
good idea.
you
Because that's
can
as soon as
see.
what happens.
So, so the thing is,
That's
though,
what
is
they did with Hong Kong. Remember?
no, but
Recently.
you can see these. No, but there are actually like you can find footage of different bits and pieces like this happen in China and things going on in China. It's not like it's a completely like like actual. The difference is that when you see footage is not the same as actually personal experience. So even hearing the personal experience with the footage would be great. It would compound itself together. But seeing the footage compared to hearing the personal experience, it just comes sort of like a I
You
do
can
see
find
that
some.
experience is the main
I don't
drive
know
towards
about
looking at
video
these sort
footage,
of
but you
things.
can find. This was like in 2010 that happened. I think the language movement. You can find some pictures of it, but it's like kids on the shoulders of their parents holding signs and stuff. The thing is in China, people can protest. I've heard of a couple of protests. I remember once whenever I was in Jiangxi, there was a protest against what they believed was unfair land seizure, and there was a protest out there. I don't know what the outcome of it was, but I do know. I don't know what the outcome of it was, but I do know they were never fucked with, and they were peaceful, and usually they had really good food. So you want to hit them up. Now Hong Kong was a different story.
That's always the good thing about protests. We always get some good bits of food on. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, but there's always food about.
Wait, I was gonna say this. I remember some Gonzalowite was telling me to go support like the Hong Kong protest. That same
See, that's
Gonzalowite.
what I mean. That's what I mean. We all
I
have the
didn't
same
get to,
position.
wait,
That's
I
what I
didn't get
can't
to
stand
finish.
about these people.
Net. I didn't get to finish. Connor knows the Gonzalowite. It's Equinox or some fucker, whatever that fuck is.
Oh,
I hate that fucker. I really do. I
no.
really hate that fucker. The only
He's
thing I
really
agree with
gonna
him is
have
that
it.
the only thing I agree with him on is that Comrade King deserves a bullet. But literally, like the other thing is this, like the Hong Kong protests are like full of shit. Like I remember I met somebody who's like Cantonese. He said like lately in Hong Kong it's like fucking like you're either pro mainland or like pro I forgot what the other thing was like
Pro independence.
or pro-independence, and literally, like, what the fuck is an independent Hong Kong going to fucking do, or some shit like that?
Be a puppet of Western imperialism again. Just like it was
or just
before.
join Taiwan or some shit like that immediately, and then
Well,
guys,
Taiwan's
we
not
gotta.
gonna last. I'll tell you that now. Taiwan's not gonna last.
Shit, Maxwell, I was notified about something that me and
Hello,
Gillis are actually
Maxwell.
supposed to personally talk to you. It's a long thing, but I have no idea how to get in contact with you, so I have to say it now before it's too late.
I want to
Do it all out in public.
get in contact with each other. Oh wait, literally, you should just join Discord temporarily and just DM us, and then like
I go on Discord sometimes. Believe me, I do.
Wait, and basically then like we'll give you like our Skype profiles, and then you can meet us up there. Done.
Okay, that's actually true. That's actually true. That works.
Easy
Y'all want to get on Skype and play some CS:GO?
Skype also. To some of these Skype groups, Connor is supposed to be in actually already. So I just don't want to force her to get freaking Skype if she doesn't want it.
Well, it's not that I don't want it. It's just I have executive dysfunction, so sometimes I just don't do shit.
I can understand that, but you join the Skype crowd.
Sometimes I just don't get it done. As much as I want to do.
How funny calls. You don't understand how much fun it is terrorizing SMG John. You don't understand it's fun. Well, actually, he terrorizes us too, so it's a two-way argument. But you get to have your blows and whistles with him. He will terrorize you back, but just I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, just so you know, because I'm not
things up on
anybody's toes.
But SMG John's actually the person who pulls all the strings. Everyone thinks Net's been pulling strings, but no. Net's actually a puppet. SMG John stood behind him, just jiggling about like.
That's why I'm so tired. Like everybody thinks like Jason is always taking information from people that.
Can
I
make this? I'm the secret one. I'm the secret one that's coming in to convert them to revisionism. I'm the Jew that's converting them to be capitalist roaders. Watch out, here I am.
No, so the thing is as well is I
watch
actually
out for Queen Bitch Revisionist.
Oh yeah, like no, so we've got the Redskins gonna make us start like taking people's scalps off. The Jews are gonna make us start like shaking people for cash, and because I'm the Anglo, so I'm gonna go like ransack a fucking entire fucking country, entire globe. Sorry, let's be real.
Raid London for all I care. Sink London. That's
they was the fire of London.
Or better, sink Miami.
The only thing about that is there's tons of amazing lumpen and working class people in these cities, and I don't want them to die.
Nuking America isn't a good idea. What we do is we move the lumpen and the fourth world people out the country, and then we nuke America.
I was just thinking about like, what about?
No. Actually, yes, shit. Fuck it. No, me and Net come up with it before. We move all of America into France, and we nuke France. There we go. Absolutely done.
Yes,
I got a better idea. Just kick out all the white people and just send them back to Europe.
No, but then what we can do is we can basically nuke it to the point where there's an entire ocean into the Mediterranean. No, what we do is we get because what we can do is the ocean that gets made out of it. Because what we'll do is we'll make sure Brittany doesn't get affected.
I'm not in the mood for destroying our planet anymore.
We'll put a protective shield around Brittany. We'll put a protective shield around Brittany and the Celtic regions. Listen. Put a protective barrier around Brittany and the Celtic regions of France. We bomb the rest with the Americans, the one that we don't want on it, and then what we do is. We call that bit of ocean land that exists when we destroyed all the fucking land below. The Celtic Sea. We get to have a Celtic Sea.
I don't like imagining bloodshed, or I don't think it's.
There's no bloodshed and vaporization.
And you know that, so a lot of people like they don't like those jokes. Like I get you, but like a lot of people, I have a friend who's that way. I can't joke like that around her.
It's just it makes me uncomfortable to gleefully talk about wiping out large sections of humanity. It's not what I'm about.
Can I say this?
But I gotta
America started this.
But I just want to do my own joke. I have my own joke.
Actually, no, the French get to it before we did.
Can I say this? basically, here's the funny thing.
That's
I'm
what
the one
friends.
who's informing everybody about what the fuck is going on in India, Peru, the Philippines, Turkey, and all these other fucking third world countries with their fucking mouth movements. And that's the funny thing about me. And I also, the other
Why do you
thing I was,
think the Gonzalez want you? They want to
oh my
co-opt you.
god.
That's what they do to
They,
people.
they want to fucking co-opt me so fucking bad. Premier Lilies, come here. Come and try to fucking co-opt me. Please, please try to fucking do so. I'll just let Net rip your jaw out. But but here's the other thing. But literally, this is the other funny thing as well. Is I was gonna say this. Like I remember Connor. Remember that guy named Soviet Frogs or some shit like that, who
Guy's
tried
a
to tell you.
weirdo. The guy's a
That guy
weirdo.
He tried to
that guy
no.
literally tried to tell Connor to try to convert me back to Marxism Leninism and tell
And he
me to
talks shit
stop my
behind my back
No,
all the time. And
no,
people's
and
I've got even better goal for you. And then so he tried to turn around to me and was like, "How do you think the Lumpen are going to be revolutionaries when they're all meth addicts?" And
oh my god,
it was the most hilarious discussion ever. I can fucking
that
pull it up and read the entire thing if you want because I
I personally don't
absolutely
want to talk
utterly
over anybody, but
terrorized they what
I do want to
aboutism
know
for
like
I was
ages.
gonna
when we can close.
finish where he was also gonna say he was also telling Connor to tell me to stop with my ethnic separatism and saying that
Okay, now
Che-
wait a minute. Who is this person?
wait,
Because this is where this is. Wait, wait, wait.
can I
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
finish?
yeah. Sorry.
And basically then talking about that Mao and Che said that People's War is not universal. When the fuck did Che ever say any shit about People's War? Projected People's War anyway, like, and also Mao
Well,
Wade
one
fucking
thing,
People's War.
one
And
thing though, but if anything, what
wait,
Che did was
can
still
I
no, but no. What I'm
finish?
saying is,
Sorry.
I'm saying and add on to the point that you're saying at that point that you should finish after I've added to the point that you're adding on, otherwise it would be
Okay.
pointless. Che actually engaged in shit that you could regard as with People's War anyway, regardless of whether he used the language or not,
Technically, in theory,
and
there's a
inspired it
strong argument for
a
that.
lot
Actually,
around
it
the
actually
world.
is a very dialectical argument because when you look back at Che, he does emulate what the see that this is I think what I wish more Maus would be honest about the continuity rupture in Marxism Leninism is a purely philosophical one. I think that I wish they'd be more open about that. You know, the third world is say it, and then the Maoists freak out. They're not denouncing it. You know, it's like, yeah, but you're allowing for the MLs to. But what there are MLs that aren't going to be comfortable with that philosophy change. And I mean, this whole thing is like, I mean, I think people forget that's really what started the third worldism. Is like, yeah, they were more inclined to the Maoist thing, but they always made this statement that they would drop things from Leninism that they shouldn't have dropped. Like the big thing in the third world is like they prefer Maoism, but at the same time, it's Leninism that has a transition plan. Maoism has no transition plan, and like Engels just like it doesn't like hearing that. And I know that you probably don't want to hear that, Falcone, but like I do hold that.
Basically, what Connor points out to me sometimes is that we never got to actually do our social practice. Like, we never got to actually establish a nation and basically establish
Post-revolutionary
I wonder
society.
why.
I call it a pre-revolutionary ideology.
Like, haven't had a
Premature and
pre-revolutionary state.
what's it? Some of them may have had a bit of a
Maoism
God
was just
complex.
preparing for third worldism anyway, just like Marxism was preparing for
Yeah.
Leninism. Nobody reads the pattern.
See-
So, I'm sorry.
The other thing is this: the reason, like, kind of also the reason why we haven't had our pre-revolutionary stage, but pre-revolution stage was maybe because of setbacks as well as like COINTELPRO fucking everything.
Well, let's be honest. The pre-stage in the United States and Canada would have to be decolonization. Like we all know that that's true.
Yeah. No, I was also gonna say like COINTELPRO, like I was meaning about like Peru. That's what I was talking about. Like remember about like fascists infiltrating the Communist Party of Peru.
Yeah,
And
because Gonzalo was thought he was some sort of fucking godlike figure that couldn't be affected by the fascists because he had a
I would
red
like to
cigar up
kindly
his ass
request
that was
if I
poking
can
out
have
his
some
skull.
food if it's okay, because I'm really hungry and I didn't sleep last night.
you
There's a lot
can.
of weird stuff that
Yes,
happened.
yes. I gotta get going.
I love you, Lizzie.
I love you.
I was
love y'all
about to go to
too.
sleep
I love y'all.
before I joined.
I love
Yeah,
you, Falcone.
I
I
already
definitely love
spent
you,
3
Stone.
hours with Dark Survivor talking about a wide range of topics. Y'all should check that out. It was a good discussion.
There were some weirdos in that chat saying America's a communist nation or some shit like that.
Yeah, they were reactionary trolls.
Yeah. So
Whoa,
weird.
wait. Are you sure America's in the communist
Hey, do you
nation?
realize
The
what we
last time I
have
checked,
here,
they do have roads.
Comrades,
and road
Comrades,
to communism.
comrades, I just realized because the way I sign off, you know, it's funny. How do I sign off? This is funny because we have to like. What are you gonna say, Car? Commie or Jew? It's my tradition.
What?
The Jewish communist conspiracy. It's our special troll. Like I say commies
Yeah.
and you have to say Jews. Are you gonna say commie or Jew?
Well, I like Jew.
All right.
It's
Commies.
the
Jew.
All right. Solidarity, comrades.
Viva Guerrero Popular.
Okay, viva la
revolution,
What she said.
materialism.
Viva el
Long
Presidente.
live the popular struggle.
Long live the multipolar movement.
Yep.
Don't give
Bye,
up the
guys.
shit, bro.
Don't give up the shit. Solidarity, comrades.